No.
And did you ever get any money from Myalansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the machetes?
No. I don't even speak to it. I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like him?
No.
Night Court with Joe Lanou, live on X.
Also known as Duff Corella.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of intent to
You got any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of intent to criminate.
You have any profession?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of...
Good evening, folks. Welcome to Night Court. Special edition tonight. We're covering the presidential debate between Donald Trump and Kamala Harris. It should be entertaining at the least from even both sides. We're going to try to catch this off of a Fox News Live web broadcast. It hasn't started yet. I'm watching it, but we're about to kick. Let's just go ahead and put it up on the screen first. We'll talk around it. How's that? Looks like 1 minute and 58 seconds according to the clock there on ABC News. But tonight we've got Kingdom. Well, we've got ChristmasContractor.com Ron Roby with us, aka Kingdom, and we've got of course co-host Big Ron and Bruce Wayne. How you guys doing tonight?
Happy to be here. Looking for some good fireworks tonight, Joe. Kingdom's good to see you, buddy.
Yeah, dude. What's going on, bro?
Look who we got
who's
there.
Sporting pink. We don't have range-minded with us, folks. We may have Coco in here tonight.
All right, it's a good thing I've got the bourbon
audio to this.
I like her little kid podium.
Welcome to you both. It's wonderful to have you. It's wonderful to have you both here tonight.
Good evening. We are looking forward to
this stream is like 7-second delay.
So let's get started. I want to begin tonight with the issue that voters repeatedly say is their number one issue, and that is the economy and the cost of living in this country. Vice President Harris, you and President Trump were elected 4 years ago, and your opponent on the stage here tonight often asks his supporters, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? When it comes to the economy, do you believe Americans are better off than they were 4 years ago?
So I was raised as a middle-class kid, and I am actually the only person on this stage who has a plan that is about lifting up the middle class and working people of America. I believe in the ambition, the aspirations, the dreams of the American people. And that is why I imagine and have actually a plan to build what I call an opportunity economy. Because here's the thing. We know that we have a shortage of homes and housing, and the cost of housing is too expensive for far too many people. We know that young families need support
People are better
to
off
raise their children, and I intend on extending a tax cut for those families of $6,000, which is the largest
you're coming in
child
horrible.
tax credit that we have given in a long time, so that those young families can afford to buy a crib, buy a car seat, buy clothes for their children.
It's the most vegetarian word salad out there.
One of them is small businesses. My mother raised my sister and me, but there was a woman who helped raise us. We call her our second mother. She was a small business owner. I love our small businesses.
So would you consider this a word salad or didn't answer the question?
Tax
it's a
deduction
deflection
to
using
start
word
up small
salad.
businesses, knowing they are part of the backbone of
My audio
America's
is better.
economy. My opponent, on the other hand, his plan is to do what he has done before, which is to provide a tax cut for billionaires and big corporations, which will result in $5 trillion to America's deficit. My opponent has a plan that I call the Trump's sales tax, which would be a 20% tax on everyday goods that you rely on to get through the month. Economists have said that Trump sales tax would actually result for middle-class families in about $4,000 more a year, because of his policies and his ideas about what should be the backs of middle-class people paying for tax cuts for billionaires.
President Trump, I'll give you 2 minutes.
First of all, I have no sales tax. That's an incorrect statement. She knows that. We're doing tariffs on other countries. Other countries are going to finally, after 75 years, pay us back for all that we've done for the world. And the tariff will be substantial in some cases. I took in billions and billions of dollars, as you know, from China. In fact, they never took the tariff off because there was so much money they can't. It would totally destroy everything that they've set out to do. They're taking in billions of dollars from China and other places. They've left the tariffs on. When I had it, I had tariffs, and yet I had no inflation. Look, we've had a terrible economy because inflation which is really known as a country buster. It breaks up countries. We have inflation like very few people have ever seen before, probably the worst in our nation's history. We were at 21%, but that's being generous because many things are 50, 60, 70, and 80% higher than they were just a few years ago. This has been a disaster for people, for the middle class, but for every class. On top of that, we have millions of people pouring into our country from prisons and jails, from mental institutions and insane asylums, and they're coming in and they're taking jobs that are occupied right now by African Americans and Hispanics, and also unions. Unions are going to be affected very soon. And you see what's happening. You see what's happening with towns throughout the United States. You look at Springfield, Ohio. You look at Aurora in Colorado. They are taking over the towns. They're taking over buildings. They're going in violently. These are the people that Xi and Biden led into our country, and they're destroying our country. They're dangerous. They're at the highest level of criminality, and we have to get them out. We have to get them out fast. I created one of the greatest economies in the history of our country. I'll do it again and even better.
We are going to get to immigration and border security during this debate, but I would like to let Vice President Harris respond on the economy here.
Well, I would love to. Let's talk about what Donald Trump left us. Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute.
Obama's speech coach.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic. And the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with the pandemic. But the only jobs they got were bounce back jobs. These were jobs bounced back, and it bounced back and it went to their benefit. But I was the one that created them. They know it, and so does everybody else.
Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond.
And that is a fact.
So Donald Trump has no plan for you. And when you look at his economic plan, it's all about tax breaks for the richest people. I am offering what I describe as an opportunity economy. And the best economists in our country, if not the world, have reviewed our relative plans for the future of America. What Goldman Sachs has said is that Donald Trump's plan would make the economy worse. Mine would strengthen the economy. What the Wharton School has said is Donald Trump's plan would actually explode the deficit. 16 Nobel laureates have described his economic plan as something that would increase inflation and by the middle of next year would invite a recession. You just have to look at where we are and where we stand on the issues. And I'd invite you to know that Donald Trump actually has no plan for you because he is more interested in defending himself than he is in looking out for you.
It's just a soundbite. They gave her that to say. Look, I went to the Wharton School of Finance, and many of those professors, the top professors, think my plan is a brilliant plan. It's a great plan. It's a plan that's going to bring up our worth, our value as a country. It's going to make people want to be able to go and work and create jobs and create
Beautiful
a lot of
plan. Fantastic
good, solid
plan.
Fantastic
money
plan.
for
Best plan
our
ever.
country.
There's never been a
Just
plan
to
like it
finish
before.
off, she doesn't have a plan. She copied Biden's plan, and it's like 4 sentences, like run, spot, run. 4 sentences that are just,
those
we'll try and
bitch-faced
lower
glares are
taxes.
not going to help her.
She doesn't have a plan. Take a look at her plan. She doesn't have a plan.
Mr. President, I do want to drill down on something you both brought up. The Vice President brought up your tariffs. You responded, and let's drill down on this because your plan is what she calls is essentially a national sales tax. Your proposal calls for tariffs, as you pointed out.
Don't forget we're playing bingo on this.
Across the board. You recently said that you might double your plan, imposing tariffs up to 20% on goods coming into this country. As you know, many economists say that with tariffs at that level, costs are then passed on to the consumer. Vice President Harris has argued it'll mean higher prices on gas, food, clothing, medication, arguing it costs the typical family nearly $4,000 a year. Do you believe Americans can afford higher prices because of tariffs?
They're not going to have higher prices. What's going to have and who's going to have higher prices is China and all of the countries that have been ripping us off for years. I was the only president ever. China was paying us hundreds of billions of dollars, and so were other countries. And, you know, if she doesn't like them, they should have gone out and they should have immediately cut the tariffs. But those tariffs are there 3.5 years now under their administration. We are going to take in billions of dollars, hundreds of billions of dollars. I had no inflation, virtually no inflation. They had the highest inflation perhaps in the history of our country because I've never seen a worse period of time. People can't go out and buy cereal or bacon or eggs or anything else. The people of our country are absolutely dying with what they've done. They've destroyed the economy. And all you have to do is look at a poll. The polls say 80 and 85 and even 90% that the Trump economy was great, that their economy was terrible.
Vice President Harris, I do want to ask for your response, and you heard what the president said there, because the Biden administration did keep a number of the Trump tariffs in place. So how do you respond?
Well, let's be clear that the Trump administration resulted in a trade deficit, one of the highest we've ever seen in the history of America. He invited trade wars. You want to talk about his deal with China? What he ended up doing is under Donald Trump's
COVID was the best thing that ever happened to
ended up
Democrats.
selling
Without a doubt,
American
COVID was the
chips
best thing.
to China
Oh,
to
100%.
help them improve and modernize their military, basically sold us out when a policy about China should be in making sure the United States of America wins the competition for the 21st century, which means focusing on the details of what that requires, focusing on relationships with our allies, focusing on investing in American-based technology so that we win the race on AI, on quantum computing, focusing on what we need to do to support America's workforce so that we don't end up having on the short end of the stick in terms of workers' rights. But what Donald Trump did, let's talk about this, with COVID, is he actually thanked President Xi for what he did during COVID. Look at his tweet. Thank you, President Xi, exclamation point.
Kamala
when we know that she was responsible for lacking and not giving us transparency about the origins of COVID.
President Trump, I'll let you respond.
First of all, they bought their chips from Taiwan. We hardly make chips anymore because of philosophies like they have and policies like they have. I don't say her because she has no policy. Everything that she believed 3 years ago and 4 years ago is out the window. She's going to my philosophy now. In fact, I was going to send her a MAGA hat. She's gone to my philosophy. But if she ever got elected, she'd change it. And it will
She's whipping out the Joker.
She's a Marxist.
Oh, you know what? I don't think that's
Everybody
going
knows
to play
she's a
well.
Marxist. Her father's a
I think she's
Marxist
supporting
professor
herself
in
very well
economics.
with this.
And he taught her well. But when you look at
yeah,
what
look at
she's
that.
done
What do y'all
to our
think?
country, and when you look at these
I don't think that's
millions
gonna
and
bode
millions
well
of
for
people
her-
that are
her
pouring into our
supporters or
country
people around the
monthly,
fence,
where
they're
it's,
gonna
I
look at
believe,
that-
21 million
that
people,
bitchy
not the
attitude and be
15
like,
that people
nah,
say.
I don't
And I
want
think
4
it's a
years
lot
of that.
higher than the 21. That's bigger than New York State pouring in. And just look at what they're doing to our country. They're criminals. Many of these people coming in are criminals, and that's bad for our economy.
Her biggest
You
issue is
mentioned
it's
before, we'll
insult,
talk about
insult,
immigration
insult,
later.
and Trump comes
Well,
back
bad
with policy,
immigration is the worst
policy.
thing that can happen to our economy.
And he's doing good. He's
They
staying,
have, and
Yeah.
she
he's not
has
falling for her insults.
destroyed
He has
our
no
country
I think he's
with
doing pretty good. I like
policy
his tact.
that's insane. Almost
he's doing
policy
good.
that you'd say they have to hate our country.
President Trump, thank you. Lindsay?
He wins
I
on
want
the
to turn to
facts.
the issue of abortion.
Well,
President
if you
Trump,
look at
you often
the
touted that you were
X
able to
feeds,
kill Roe
all
v.
the
Wade. Last year,
the
you
blue
said
hairs are
that you
saying
were
that
proud
Kamala
to
is
be
just
the
completely
most
stomping them.
pro-life president in American history.
Because they've
Then
never
last
debated in
month,
their
you said
life.
that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is
calling him out for
because
changing
the
the
plan
position?
is, as you know, the vote is they have
Yeah, where do we start with
abortion
our-
in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby.
Ooh,
And
that
that's
was
why I
Virginia,
did that,
not West
because
Virginia.
that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential
West
pick,
Virginia.
which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our
Yeah,
country.
you're 100%
because
right on
he
that.
is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine. He also says execution after birth. It's execution, no longer abortion, because the baby is born.
Not to mention the
is
pedo
okay.
sanctuary.
And that's not okay with me, hence the vote. But what I did is something for 52 years. They've been trying to get Roe v. Wade into the states. And through the genius and heart and strength of 6 Supreme Court justices, we were able to do that. Now, I believe in the exceptions for rape, incest, and life of the mother. I believe strongly in it. Ronald Reagan did also. 85% of Republicans do. Exceptions, very important. But we were able to get it, and now states are voting on it. And for the first time, you're going to see, look, this is an issue that's torn our country apart for 52 years. Every legal scholar, every Democrat, every Republican, liberal, conservative, they all wanted this issue to be brought back to the states where the people could vote. And that's what happened. Now, Ohio, the vote was somewhat liberal. Kansas, the vote was somewhat liberal, much more liberal than people would have thought. But each individual state is voting. It's the vote of the people now. It's not tied up in the federal government. I did a great service in
Man,
doing it.
I
It
tell
took
you what,
courage
you
to
can't
do it.
argue
And
with the
the
facts
Supreme
that he's
Court
laying
had
down
great
there.
courage in doing it. And I give tremendous
you gotta
credit to
cut her
those
off
6
at the-
justices.
You know, they
There
don't
is no
talk
state
about
in this
the
country
states
where it
that
is
have
legal to kill a
literally
baby
ratified it
after
to be in
it's
their
born.
constitution.
Madam Vice President, I want to get your
Ohio's
response
one
to
of them.
They're
President
running
Trump.
cover
Well,
for
as
her
I said,
already,
you're going to hear a
though.
bunch of lies, and that's not actually a
So
surprising
look at the
fact.
screen when they do the shot from her
Let's
right,
understand how we got here.
looking to the left. I
Donald
swear
Trump
that
hand-selected 3
the
members of
screen
the
on there
United
says
States
tyranny
Supreme Court with the
to her
intention
left.
that they would undo the protections of Roe v. Wade.
And notice how they're keeping
And
it
they did
split, and
exactly
you're trying
as
really
he
hard not to
intended.
get a side
And
by
now in
side,
over 20
so they don't
states,
see her
there
Mitch
are
at
Trump
podium.
abortion bans, which make it criminal for a doctor or nurse to provide health care. In one state, it provides prison for life.
Is my audio any better?
Trump abortion bans that make no
Sounds better.
exception even for rape and
you got this
incest,
weird,
which understand what that
Kamala
means.
Harris
A
echo going
survivor
on
of
there. I
a
can't figure
crime,
that
a
out.
violation to their body.
Who's
does
it
not
healthcare
have the
for?
right
The
to
mother
make a
or the
decision
child they're
about what
killing?
happens to
Only
their
one
body
person's
next.
getting
That
care
is
in this situation.
immoral. And
Don't you mean
one does not
Zygote?
have to abandon
Well, and he
their
lays out a
faith
very
or
reasonable. He
deeply
lays
held
out the
beliefs
position of the
to
Democrats 10
agree.
years ago,
The
which is safe,
government
legal, and
and
rare.
Donald Trump certainly
And
should not
hers
be
is
telling
for
a
any
woman what
reason
to
at
do
any time.
with her body. I have talked with women around our country. You want to talk about this is what people wanted? Pregnant women who want to carry a pregnancy to term, suffering from a miscarriage, being denied care in an emergency room because the healthcare providers are afraid
No
they
mother is
might go to
denied care
jail,
with a
and she's
miscarriage.
bleeding out in a car in the parking lot. She didn't want that. Her husband didn't want that.
There we go.
12
Tug on
or
the
13-year-old
heartstrings. Tug on
I would
the
survivor
like to
of
see
heartstrings.
specific
being
examples of
forced
that.
to carry a pregnancy to term. They don't want that. And I pledge to you, When Congress passes a bill to put back
Trump's
in
doing
place
good.
the protections of Roe v. Wade, as President of the United States, I will proudly sign it into law. But understand, if Donald Trump were to be reelected, he will sign a national abortion ban. Understand, in his Project 2025,
The straight
there
up
would
lie.
be a
He's straight up.
national
He's always
abortion,
said he
a
never would do
monitor
that.
that would be
Hey,
monitoring your
25
pregnancies,
maybe on
your
those bingo
miscarriages.
cards.
I think the American people believe that certain freedoms, in particular the freedom to make decisions about one's own body, should not be made by the government.
Watch with moderators
Thank you,
too. I'll
Vice
bet they don't let
President
him rebut
Harris.
this.
Well, there she goes again. It's a lie. I'm not signing a ban, and there's no reason to sign a ban because we've gotten what everybody wanted. Democrats, Republicans, and everybody else, and every legal scholar wanted it to be brought back into the states, and the states are voting. And it may take a little time, but for 52 years, this issue has torn our country apart, and they've wanted it back in the states. And I did something that nobody thought was possible. The states are now voting. What she says is an absolute lie. And as far as the abortion ban, no, I'm not in favor of abortion ban, but it doesn't matter because this issue has now been taken over by the states.
Would you veto a national abortion ban if it came
Well, I
to your
won't
desk?
have to because, again, two things. Number one, she said she'll go back to Congress. She'll never get the vote. It's impossible for her to get the vote, especially now with the 50-50 and essentially 50-50 in both Senate and the House. She's not going to get the vote. She can't get the vote. She won't even come close to it. So it's just talk. You know what it reminds me of when they said they're going to get student loans terminated, and it ended up being a total catastrophe. The student loans, and then her, I think probably her boss, if you call him a boss, he spends all his time on the beach. But look, her boss went out and said, we'll do it again. We'll do it a different way. He went out, got rejected again by the Supreme Court. So all these students got taunted with this whole thing about this whole idea. And how unfair that
He
would have
doesn't
been.
really have
Part of
much
the
to
reason
rebut to
they
on this
lost
one because
to
he's on record
the
saying
millions and millions of
he
people
wouldn't
that
sign a
had to pay
national
off
ban.
their student loans.
He's
They
already
didn't
said
get
it needs
for
to go
free.
back to the
But they were
states. So
saying
now
it's
he's
the same way
using this
they
time
talked about that
to
they
point out
talk
some
about
stuff that may not
abortion.
get asked.
But
I
if
think
I
is
could
good.
just get a yes or no, because your running mate, J.D. Vance, has said that you would veto it if it did come to your desk.
Well, I didn't discuss it with J.D. In all fairness, J.D. And I don't mind if he has a certain view, but I think he was speaking for me, but I really didn't. Look, we don't have to discuss it because she'd never be able to get it, just like she couldn't get student loans. They couldn't get student loans. They didn't even come close to getting student loans. They taunted young people and a lot of other people that had loans. They can never get this approved. So it doesn't matter what she says about going to Congress. So wonderful. Let's go to Congress, do it. But the fact is that for years, they wanted to get it out of Congress and out of the federal government. And we did something that everybody said couldn't be done. And now you have a vote of the people on abortion.
This is going well because the
Vice
abortion
President
issue
Harris,
was
want to give
supposed
you your
to be
time to respond, but I do want to ask, would you support any restrictions on a woman's right to an abortion?
I absolutely support reinstating the protections of Roe v. Wade. And as you rightly mentioned, nowhere in America is a woman carrying a pregnancy to term and asking for an abortion. That is not happening. It's insulting to the women of
It
America.
actually happens
And
about
understand what has
18,000
been
times a
happening
year.
under Donald Trump's
Fact
abortion
check,
bans.
false.
Couples who
Yeah, in fact,
pray
women are wearing shirts
and
bragging about how
dream
they've
of
done it.
having a family
Yep.
are being denied IVF treatments. What is happening in our country? Working people, working women who are working one or two jobs, who can barely afford childcare as it is, have to travel to another state to get on a plane sitting next to strangers to go and get the health care she needs. Barely can afford to do it, and what you are putting her through is unconscionable. And the people of America have not, the majority of Americans believe in a woman's right to make decisions about her own body. And that
Here
is
she goes
why
back to this story of the
in
lady
every
bleeding out in the
state where
car.
this issue has been on the ballot in red and blue states both, the people of America have voted for freedom.
Vice President Harris,
Excuse me, I
thank
have
you.
to respond. Another lie. It's another lie. I have been a leader on IVF, which is fertilization. The IVF,
He has
I have
actually.
been a leader. In fact, when they got a very negative decision on IVF from the Alabama courts, I saw the people of Alabama and the legislature 2 days later voted it in. I've been a leader on it. They know that, and everybody else knows it. I have been a leader on fertilization, IVF. And the other thing, you should ask, will she allow abortion in the 8th month, 9th month, 7th month?
Come on.
Okay, would you do that? Why don't you ask her that question?
Why don't you answer the question? Would you
because
veto?
under Roe v. Wade,
Answer the question. Would you veto?
you could do abortion
thought they were
in the
muting
7th
mics.
month, the 8th month, the 9th month.
No, they only
and
mute Trump's mic.
probably
Kamala's
after
allowed.
birth.
Excuse me,
Just
she's
look
talking.
at the
She's
governor,
talking.
former
I'm a
governor of Virginia.
Apparently.
The governor of Virginia said we put the baby aside and then we determine what we want to do with the baby.
President Trump, thank you.
We're
You
going to
did
turn
correct
now
there
to
to Virginia.
immigration and border security. We know it's an issue that's important to Republicans, Democrats, voters across the board in this country. Vice President Harris, you were tasked by
We just lost the stream. Joe, you there?
And we're still showing live. We just lost the video.
Yeah, I'm still here. You got me?
Yeah, we got you.
The live stream.
Bless their heart.
It could have been them.
So I was wondering, I was going to ask you guys. Trump said, or I heard that after the assassination attempt, Trump had like almost a spiritual experience that changed him. Do you guys feel like he is different now than he
Some of the
was
most conservative
a year
members
ago?
of the United States Senate came up with a border security bill, which I supported. And that bill would have put 1,500 more border agents on the border to help those folks who are working there right now overtime, trying to do their job. It would have allowed us to stem the flow of fentanyl coming into the United States. I know there are so many families watching tonight who have been personally affected by the surge of fentanyl in our country.
Does anybody else
That
notice her
bill
voice really
would have
nasally?
put more resources
It
to allow
always
us to
seems
prosecute.
awful.
Oh, bingo.
What happened to that bill? Donald Trump got on the phone, called up some folks in Congress and
her
said, kill the
border
bill. And you know
would
why?
have
Because he'd prefer to run on a
made
problem
the current
instead of
border
fixing
crossings
a problem.
law.
And
Yeah, it would-
understand, this
would have not
comes
stemmed
at
the
a
flow at all.
time where the
It
people
was
of our country
5,000 people
actually
a day, I
need
think,
a
is
leader
what they were saying.
who engages in
At
solutions,
border
who
crossings
actually
and then
addresses
unlimited,
the
or
problems
sorry,
at
5,000
hand.
a day.
But what we
not at
have in
border
the former
crossings
president
and
is someone who would
unlimited at
prefer to
border
run on a problem
crossings.
instead of fixing a problem. And I'll tell you something, he's
And that
going to talk
only
about immigration a lot
Asians and
tonight, even when it's not the subject that is being raised. And I'm going to actually do something really unusual, and I'm going to invite you to attend one of Donald Trump's rallies, because it's a really interesting thing to watch. You will see during the course of his rallies, he talks about fictional characters like Hannibal Lecter. He will talk about windmills cause cancer. And what you will also notice
Hey, that's
is
on
that
the
people
bingo
start
card,
leaving
Hannibal
his
Lecter.
rallies early out of exhaustion and boredom. And I will tell you, the one thing you will not hear him talk about is you. You will not hear him talk about
'Cause
your
there's no
needs, your
twerking.
dreams, and your desires. And I'll tell you, I believe you deserve a president who actually puts you first. And I pledge to you that I
Not
will.
just that she
Vice
lies
President
about
Harris, thank you.
everything.
President
that
Trump, on that
she
point,
lies
I want to
about
get your
things that
Well, I would
response.
like to
easily
respond.
Let me just
disprove
ask, though, why did you try to
Okay,
kill
can we
that
still
bill
hear
and
and see the bingo
successfully
card?
so that would have put thousands of additional agents and
Yep.
officers on the border?
First, let me respond as to the
Please.
rallies. She said people start leaving. People don't go to her rallies. There's no reason to go.
All
And
we see
the
is the
people that
bingo
do
card.
go, she's bussing them in and paying them to be there.
All right, we got
And
abortion.
then showing them in
Tracking
a
this big
different
run.
light. So she can't talk about that. People don't leave my
Well,
rallies.
the
We have
one you
biggest
got up,
rallies,
Joe,
the
I've
most
got
incredible
didn't
rallies
answer
in
the
the history of
question. Word
politics.
salad.
That's because people want to
Copies
take
Trump's
their country
policies.
back.
Project
Our country
2025
is being lost. We're a failing nation.
and
And
abortion.
it happened 3.5
No
years
bingo yet?
ago. And
No bingo yet.
What's
And
going
She
then-
on
alluded to
here, you're going to
January
end up in
6th.
World War
She didn't
III,
say
just to go
January
into
6th.
another subject. What they have done to
Your
our
coaches
country by
must have told
allowing
her
these millions
tackle. She
and
hasn't
millions of people to come into our country, and look at what's happening to the towns all over the United States. And a lot of towns don't want to talk. It's not going to be Aurora or
All right,
Springfield.
so this one
a
I've
lot of towns
got.
don't want to
Someone
talk
talks about
it because
actual
they're so
policy.
embarrassed by it.
Project
In Springfield,
2025.
they're
Kamala
eating the
laughs.
dogs. The
Trump's a
people that
liar.
came in, they're
The
eating
late
the
great
cats.
Hannibal
They're
Lecter.
eating.
He said black
They're
jobs.
eating the pets.
Trump
people
mentions
that
Joe
live
Biden.
there. And this is what's happening in our country, and it's a shame.
Hang on, is eating
As
pets
far
on
as
any of them?
rallies are concerned,
No, I don't
as
think they put
far
eating
as
pets on
the
there yet.
reason they go
These
is
may
they
have been
like
done
what I
before the
say.
pet eating
They want to
started.
bring our country back.
eating
They
pet
want to
was
make
me
America
watching
great again. It's a very simple
bingo card.
phrase: make America great again. She's destroying this country.
And there's
if
Make
she
America Great
becomes
Again.
president, this country doesn't have a chance of success. Not only success, we'll end up being Venezuela on steroids.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager
I got
there.
the bingo
He
cards.
told
We
us
can place
there
them
have
up.
been no
We'll bring them
credible
up again.
reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well,
All
I've
this.
seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is
the people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that.
We have
maybe that's a
videos
good
of
thing
people
to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from
But
television.
the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying their
manager.
dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice
We'll
President
find
Harris,
out.
I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
You talk about extreme.
Oh, there's the cackle.
You know,
Yeah, there it is. There's the
I
crackle.
think,
That's
one
a
of the
cackle.
reasons
We got a
why
bingo yet?
In this
I'll
election,
get you, my
I actually
pretty.
have the endorsement
In your little
of
Vance, too.
200 Republicans who have formerly worked with President Bush, Mitt Romney, and
We got
John McCain,
Orton, cackle,
including the endorsement of former Vice
Word
President
salad.
Dick Cheney and Congress member Liz
Colin.
Cheney.
the-
And if you want to really know
Did you pick up
the
opportunity
inside
economy?
track on who the former president is, if he
no.
didn't make it clear already, just ask people who have worked with him. His former chief of staff, a 4-star general, has said he has contempt for the Constitution of the
That was
United States.
Bunked by
His former
over-
national security advisor has said he is dangerous and unfit. His former Secretary of Defense has said the nation.
Hey, folks, for the viewers, our comments are open. If you want to join in on the banter or comments, we're watching them live. We'll post them
And
up so
when
everyone else
we
can see and
listen to this
see your
kind
thoughts
of
and your
rhetoric,
questions and your
when
comments.
the issues that affect the American people are not being addressed, I think the choice is clear in this election.
Issues that
President
affect
Trump,
the
I'll give you a
American
quick
people are ones that she caused. The economy,
Thank
the
you,
open border.
because when I hear that, see, I'm a different kind of a person. I fired most of those people. Not so graciously. They did bad things or a bad
Yeah,
job.
well, Kamala
I fired
made him
them.
quit.
They never fired one person. They didn't fire anybody having to do with Afghanistan and the Taliban and the 13 people whose were just killed, viciously and violently killed. And I got to know the parents and the family. They didn't fire. They should have fired all those generals, all those top people, because that was one of the most incompetently handled situations anybody has ever seen. So when somebody does a bad job, I fire him. And you take a guy like Esper. He was no good. I fired him. So he writes a book. Another one writes a book. Because with me, they can write books. With nobody else can they. But they have done such a poor job, and they never fire anybody. Look at the economy. Look at the inflation.
they fail
didn't
upwards.
fire any of their economists. They have the same people. That's a good way not to have books written about you.
Exactly how
But
she became
just to
VP.
finish, I got more votes than any Republican in history by far. In fact, I got more votes than any president, sitting president in history by far.
Let me continue on immigration. It was what you wanted to talk about earlier. So let's get back to your deportation proposal that the vice president has reacted to as well. President Trump, you call this the largest domestic deportation operation in the history of our country. You say you would use the National Guard. You say if things get out of control, you'd have no problem using the U.S.
With local
military.
police, yes.
You also said you would use local police. How would you deport 11 million undocumented immigrants? I know you believe that number is much higher.
How are you going to
Take us
undo
through
her
this? What does this look like? Will authorities be going door to door in this country?
Yeah.
Oh, was that Bruce?
It is much higher because of them. They
Moderate-
allowed criminals, many millions of criminals. They allowed terrorists. They allowed common street criminals. They allowed people to come in, drug dealers, to come into our country. And they're now in the United States and told by their countries like Venezuela, don't ever come back or we're going to kill you. Do you know that crime in Venezuela and crime in countries all over the world is way down? You know
This is
why?
100%
Because they've
documented,
taken
too,
their
that this is
criminals
true.
off the street and they've given them to her to put into our country. And this will be one of the greatest mistakes in history for them to allow. And I think they probably did it because they think they're going to get votes, but it's not worth it because they're destroying the fabric of our country by what they've done. There's never been anything done like this at all. They've destroyed the fabric of our country. Millions of people let in, and all over the world, crime is down all over the world, except here. Crime here is up and through the roof. Despite their fraudulent statements that they made, crime in this country is through the roof. And we have a new form of crime. It's called migrant crime. And it's happening at levels that nobody thought possible.
President Trump, as you know, the FBI says overall violent crime is actually coming down in this country. But Vice
Excuse me,
President
the
Harris,
FBI they were defrauding statements. They didn't include the worst cities. They didn't include the cities with the worst crime. It
Reporting
was
is 60% down.
Just like their number of
DC,
814,000 jobs that they said they created turned out to be
none of them are
fraud.
reporting crime.
San Francisco,
Well, I
New
think
York,
this is so rich,
Chicago,
coming from
Minneapolis,
someone
they
who has
don't
been
report.
prosecuted.
And New
For
York,
national security crimes, economic crimes, election interference has been
she's
found
talking about Trump's
liable for
crimes.
sexual
Hang on, we're gonna
assault,
get the
and
convicted
his
felon.
next big court appearance is in November at his own criminal sentencing. And let's be clear where each person stands
let's be clear
on
on
the
there, too.
issue of what is important about respect for the rule of law and respect for law enforcement. The former vice president called for defunding federal law enforcement, 45,000 agents, get this, on the day after he was arraigned on 34 felony counts. So let's talk about what is important in this race. It is important that we move forward, that we turn the page on this same old tired rhetoric and address the needs of the American people, address what we need to do about the housing shortage, which I have a plan for, address what we must do to support our small businesses, address bringing down the price of groceries. But frankly, the American people are exhausted with this same old tired playbook.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
Excuse me. Every one of those cases was started by them against their political opponent. And I'm winning most of them, and I will win the rest on appeal. And you saw that with the decision that came down just recently from the Supreme Court. I'm winning most of them. But those are cases, it's called weaponization. Never happened in this country. They weaponized the Justice Department. Every one of those cases was involved with the DOJ, from Atlanta and Fani Willis to the Attorney General of New York and the DA in New York. Every one of those cases. And then they say, oh, he's a criminal. They're the ones that made them go after me. By the way, Joe Biden was found essentially guilty on the documents case. And what happened in my documents case? They said, oh, that's the toughest of them all. A complete and total victory. 2 months ago, it was thrown out. It's weaponization, and they used it, and it's never happened in this country. They used it to try and win an election. They're fake cases.
President Trump, thank you. A really quick response here, Vice President Harris, on this notion of weaponization of the Justice Department.
Well, let's talk about extreme and understand the context in which this election in 2024 is taking place. The United States Supreme Court recently ruled that the former president would essentially be immune from any misconduct if he were to enter the White House again. Understand, this is someone who has openly said he would terminate, I'm quoting, terminate the Constitution of the United States, that he would weaponize the Department of Justice against his political enemies. Someone who has openly expressed disdain for members of our military. Understand what it would mean if Donald Trump were back in the White House with no guardrails, because certainly we know now the court won't stop him. We know J.D. Vance is not going to stop him. It's up to the American people to stop him.
Thank you. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president.
This is the one that weaponized, not me. She weaponized. I probably took a bullet to the head because of the things that they say about me. They talk about democracy. I'm a threat to democracy.
There's assassination.
They're the threat to democracy with a fake Russia investigation that went nowhere.
We have a lot to get to. Lindsay?
Vice President Harris, in your last run for president, you said you wanted to ban fracking. Now you don't. You wanted mandatory government buyback programs for assault weapons. Now your campaign says you don't. You supported decriminalizing border crossings. Now you're taking a harder line. I know you say that your values have not changed. So then why have so many of your policy positions
There's
changed?
values haven't changed.
So my values have not changed, and I'm going to discuss every one of the, at least every point that you've made. But in particular, let's talk about fracking, because we're here in Pennsylvania. I made that very clear in 2020. I will not ban fracking. I have not banned fracking as Vice President of the United States. And in fact, I was the tie-breaking vote on the Inflation Reduction Act, which opened new leases for fracking. My position is that we have got to invest in diverse sources of energy so we reduce our reliance on foreign oil. We have had the largest increase in domestic oil production in history because of an approach that recognizes that we cannot over-rely on foreign oil. As it relates to my values, let me tell you, I grew up a middle-class kid raised by a hardworking mother who worked and saved and was able to buy our first home when I was a teenager. The values I bring to the importance of home ownership, knowing not everybody got handed $400 million on a silver platter and then filed bankruptcy 6 times, is a value that I bring to my work, to say we are going to work with the private sector and home builders to increase 3 million homes, increased by 3 million homes by the end of my first term. My work that is related to having a friend when I was in high school who was sexually assaulted by her stepfather.
So she's saying they're going
And
to
my
keep
focus
production
then
at the
on
same,
protecting women and children from violent crime is based on a value that is deeply grounded in the importance
Why is the government
of
owning these
standing
homes
up for those who are
keeping
most
private
vulnerable.
citizens from attaining
My
it?
work that is about protecting Social Security and Medicare is based on long-standing work that I have done, protecting seniors from scams. My values have not changed. And what is important is that there is a president who actually brings values and a perspective that is about lifting people up and not beating people down. And name
She knows
calling.
about beating
The
people.
true measure of the leader is the leader who actually understands the strength is not in beating people down, it's in lifting people up. I intend to be that president.
President Trump,
Well, first of all, I wasn't given $400 million. I wish I was. My father was a Brooklyn builder, Brooklyn, Queens, and a great father, and I learned a lot from him. But I was given a fraction of that, a tiny fraction, and I built it into many, many billions of dollars, many, many billions. And when people see it, they are even surprised. So we don't have to talk about that. Fracking, she's been against it for 12 years. Defund the police, she's been against that forever. She gave all
Not
that
true. She's
stuff up
tweeted it many, many
very
times.
Wrongly, very horribly, and everybody's laughing at it, okay? They're all laughing at it. She gave up at least 12 and probably
And remember,
14 or
they
15
named all these
different
things, like
policies.
you're against fracking,
she
you're
was big
against
on
this,
defund
you're
the police.
against that.
In
She just
Minnesota,
said,
she
"My
went out.
policy
Wait a minute, I'm
not
talking
changed."
now.
And then she
You don't
went
mind,
and
please.
immediately started backpedaling.
Does that sound familiar?
Trump pulled the I'm talking now.
She went out. She went out
Split that out.
Look at
Minnesota
that callous
and wanted to let
B-word.
criminals that killed people, that burned
I'm
down
talking now. Does that sound
Minneapolis,
familiar?
she went
That
out and
was
raised money to
hilarious.
get them out of
Love it.
jail. She did things
He
that
doesn't know what
nobody
to
would
do with
ever
it.
think of. Now she wants to do transgender
Not even her
operations
husband
on
talks to
illegal
her like
aliens
that.
that are in prison. This is a radical left liberal that would do this. She wants to confiscate your guns, and she will never allow fracking in Pennsylvania. If she won the election, fracking in Pennsylvania will end on day
Look at her
one.
face. She's
Just to finish
big
one
mad.
thing, so important
She's
in my opinion.
big mad.
So I got the oil business
Bernie
going
Sanders
like nobody
said
has
that
ever
she's
done before.
extreme, and
They
he's a-
took when they took over, they got rid of it, started getting rid of it, and the prices were going up the roof. They immediately let these guys go to where they were. I would have been 5 times, 4 times, 5 times higher, because you're talking about 3.5 years ago. They got it up to where I was because they had no choice, because the prices of energy were quadrupling and doubling. You saw what happened to gasoline. So they said, let's go back
social
to
media
Trump.
is going
But if
nuts
she
right
won the
now with
election,
the
the
I'm talking.
day
Does
after
that
that
sound familiar
election,
comment? It's all
they'll
over
go
the
back
place.
to destroying our country, and oil will be dead. Fossil fuel will be dead. We'll go back to windmills, and we'll go back to solar, where they need a whole desert to get some energy to come out. You ever see a solar plant? By the way, I'm a big fan of solar, but they take 400, 500 acres of desert
President
soil.
Trump, we have a
These
lot
are
of
not good
issues
things
that
for
we
the
have to get
environment,
to.
as
We're
she
out of time.
understands.
Thank
And
you.
they
Lindsay,
Desert.
thank you. We have an election in just 56 days. And I want to talk about the peaceful transfer of power, which, of course, we all know is a cornerstone of our democracy and the role of a president
It's a mother
in a moment of crisis.
republic.
Mr. President, on January 6th,
Constitutional
you told your supporters
republic,
to
you
march to
piece
the
of
Capitol. You
shit.
said you would be right there with them. The country and the world saw what played out at the Capitol
They
that
can
day,
bring
with
up the
officers
DNC
coming under attack.
all the lies
Aides in the
about
West
her-
Wing say you watched it unfold on television off the Oval Office. You did send out tweets, but it was more than 2 hours before you sent out that video message telling your supporters to go home. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
You just said a thing that isn't covered. Peacefully and patriotically, I said during my speech, not later on. peacefully and
I listened to the
patriotically.
speech live. He's
And
correct.
nobody on the other side was killed. Ashley Babbitt was shot by an out-of-control police officer that should have
100%.
never, ever shot her. It's a disgrace. But we didn't do this group of people that have been treated so badly. I ask, what about all the people that are pouring into our country and killing people that she allowed to pour in? She was the border czar. Remember that. She was the border czar. She doesn't want to be called the border czar because she's embarrassed by the border.
I think I got bingo.
Beginning. Oh, I'm surprised you're not talking about the border yet. That's because
I've had bingo
she
for a
knows
while.
what a bad job they've done. What about those
Excuse
people?
me, I'm talking.
When are they going to be
Excuse me.
prosecuted? When are these people from
Stay in your
countries
lane,
all
Kingdom.
over the world, not just South America? They're coming in from
on her
all
face.
over.
Which card
the
do you have
world,
bingo
David.
on? Do you have it on the
All over
Kamala
world.
card?
And crime rates are down
Laura's
all
got
over
it
the
over
world
here, and
because
she's-
of it.
But let me just
one
ask
of
you-
those
I've got it on the
one of those people
on
got
the
to be prosecuted.
red and white
One of
one.
the people that burned down Minneapolis got to
Right
be
across the
prosecuted.
street. Laura.
Or in Seattle,
that up a
they
couple
went
times.
into Seattle. They took over a big percentage of the city of Seattle.
Yeah, I've got
When are
Kamala
those
laughs,
people
Trump
gonna be
felonies,
prosecuted?
Trump tells
But let me
lies,
just ask
late
you. You might
great
ask her that
Hannibal,
question.
You were
and
the
assassination
president. You were
attempt.
watching it unfold on television. It's a very simple question as we move forward toward another election. Is there anything you regret about what you did on that day?
For crying out loud.
Yes, sir.
I had nothing to do with that other than they asked me to make a speech. I showed up for a speech. I said, I think it's going to be big. I went to Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington, D.C., and the mayor put it back in writing, as you know. I said, this is going to be a very big rally or whatever you want to call it. And again, it wasn't done by me. It was done by others. I said, I'd like to give you 10,000 National Guard or soldiers. They rejected me. Nancy Pelosi rejected me. It was just 2 weeks ago. Her daughter has a tape of her saying she is fully responsible for what happened. They want to get rid of that tape. It would have never happened if Nancy Pelosi and the mayor of Washington did their job.
You want to make a bet
I
that her
wasn't
retort to
responsible
this
for
is that he's
security.
lying?
Nancy Pelosi was
100.
responsible. She
No,
didn't
never.
do her
He's
job.
simply
The
not
question was
telling
about
the
you
truth.
as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi. But I do want Vice President Harris to
Man,
respond.
you brought enough gaslighting to light all along.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th.
Uh-oh.
I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was
Fake news.
And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital,
Remember, the Kamala said
to
the
desecrate
riots
our
should not
nation's
stop.
capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured,
Oh, my
and
goodness.
some died.
It's terrible.
And
140?
understand, the
Zero
former president
died.
has been
Zero died.
indicted
Zero
and
died that
Zero
day, and
died.
zero died from
exactly
things
that
that
reason.
happened that day.
Oh my
But this is
gosh.
not an isolated situation. Let's remember Charlottesville,
Oh, that's what
where
I
Oh,
forget.
there
Ku
was
Klux
a
Klan.
mob of
Here we go
people
with this shit.
carrying tiki
This was
torches,
the
Very
debunk.
fine.
Tiki
spewing
torches.
anti-Semitic hate.
Snopes, super far
And
left
what did
Snopes.
the
said that
president
By the way,
then
them
at the
tiki
time
torches,
say?
they don't seem
There
to be
were
real
fine people
threatening.
on each side.
They're like party
Let's
atmosphere.
remember
I don't think this is
that
a good
when it
strategy
came
for
to
her
the
because
Proud
all of
Boys,
these
a
have been
militia.
debunked by the left, like
Well,
Blaine
The
said.
president
Are
said, the
Tiki
former
torches
president
do
said,
carry a
stand
bunch
back
of
and
fuel
stand
and
by.
fire. You break that thing,
So
you
for
just create a
everyone
Molotov.
watching who
Oh my
remembers
Yeah, I
what
was
January
being
Right.
6th
facetious
It's
there,
was,
super
James.
dangerous.
I say we don't have to go back.
Well, remember, she set up
Let's
a
not go
fund.
back. We're not going
Oh, we don't have
back.
to go back.
It's
It's on
time
here.
to turn the page.
Right here.
And if that was a bridge
Turn
too
the
far for
page.
you, well, there is a place
Turn the
in our
page.
campaign for you to stand
We're here for you.
for
Somebody should be
country,
drinking at this
to
point.
stand
Look,
for
I'm
our
halfway through a
democracy,
glass
to
of-
You.
stand
Laura's
for
got his
rule
handle.
of
We
There you
love
go.
you.
Everybody
and to
drink up.
end the
We bingoed a couple of
chaos.
times.
Yeah, I was gonna say I
and
got my
to
second
end
bingo.
the approach that is about
Man, if I didn't have to go to work.
foundations of our democracy because you don't like the outcome. And
Our
be clear
democracy.
on that
Our
point.
What do you and
Donald
Kingdom
Trump,
drink
the
tonight,
candidate,
Laura?
I'm
has said
having
in this
vodka,
election there will be a
vodka tonic right
bloodbath.
now. Ron
If
is
this and the
having
outcome
water.
of this election
Agua.
is not to his liking. Let's turn the page on this. Let's not
It's
go
actually
back.
Everclear, but
Let's
he's not saying
chart
it.
a course for the future.
Joe's
not
already
go
on the
drinking
ground.
backwards to the
coffee
past.
tonight.
Let me just follow
Joe's
up here.
drinking coffee.
Wait,
Yes.
he's drinking it out of a
was
mason
different
jar?
term, and it was a
It's
term
moonshine.
Yeah.
What kind of coffee
related
we
to
drinking, Joe?
energy because they have destroyed our energy business. That was where bloodbath was.
You asked me what
Also,
kind of coffee?
on Charlottesville.
I did, sir.
That story has been, as
It's
you
what's
would say,
available in the
debunked.
master's house. I
Laura
gotta walk over
Ingraham,
and get it. I
Sean
can get some
Hannity.
Keurig.
It is
Jesse, all
Starbucks
of these
breakfast
people,
blend.
they
Oh,
know
that's
that
horrible,
they have
hipster
extra
buck.
That's the
steps.
only
They
kind
will
they
see it
allow
was
me to
perfect.
have. I've got
It
my
was
own little
debunked
set of
in
coffee.
almost every newspaper, but they
I have
still
other
bring it up. just
Damn
like
it,
they
Joe.
bring
Do I need to buy you more coffee?
They bring all of this
Yes.
stuff up.
The answer is
I
yes.
asked
I'll
you this,
answer
you
for
talk
him.
about
Yes.
Who said that?
Why are we allowing
James sent
these
some
millions of
coffee.
people to come through on the
Valhalla.
southern border?
I
How come
have
she's
some
not
really
doing
nice
it?
coffee, but
And
he
I'll
has
tell you
Yeah,
to
what,
Valhalla
and I'm
Java.
very
Yeah, it
proud
was
to
really
do
good
it.
coffee.
I would
Yes,
say
I'll tell
we
you
would
what,
both leave
it's going to
this
sound kind of
debate
off the
right
wall for me,
now.
but Valhalla's
I'd like
got
to
some
see her go
tea that's
down
really good.
to Washington, D.C. during this debate because we're wasting a lot of time. Go down to, because she's been so bad, it's so ridiculous. Go down
It's
to
ridiculous.
Washington, D.C. and let her
We've got
sign a bill to
Bonnie,
close up
my
the
wife
border
got a,
because they have the right to
I got
do
the
it.
top
They don't
row
need
and the third
bills.
row.
They have the right to do it. The president of the United States, you'll get him out of bed, you'll wake him up at 4 o'clock in the
My
afternoon.
wife
and
got
you'll
a
say, come
sampler
on,
pack.
come on
And
down
I think
to the
my
office,
favorite one
let's
out
sign
of
a
there
bill.
so far is I'm Your Huckleberry, and it's got a picture of
that the border is closed. All he has to do is say it to the
Doc
border
Holliday on the front
patrol,
of
who are
it.
phenomenal.
More
We can
specifically,
talk about
If they do
coffee in the
that, the
after
border
party.
is closed.
Mr.
Those
President,
We'll
people
talk
are
about coffee in
killing
the after
many
party.
people, unlike J6.
We talked immigration here tonight. I do want to focus on this next issue to both of you because it really brings us this into focus. Truth in these times that we're
All right,
living
we're going to
in.
bring it into focus,
Mr.
guys.
President,
Pay
for
attention.
3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed
guys
that
seen
you won,
Parks and Rec,
many
right?
times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't
Never been there.
make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging
That news guy reminds me of
But you
did
said that
say
Herb,
sarcastically. You
the
know that.
newscast, the
It
black
was said,
news
oh, we
guy on
lost by a
Parks and Rec.
whisker. That was said sarcastically. Look, there's so much proof. All you have to do is look at it. And they should have
Lost
sent
by
it
a
back to the
whisker. Oh, no.
legislatures for
The
approval.
kittens in
I got
Ohio.
almost 75 million votes, the most votes any sitting president has ever gotten. I was told if I got 63, which was what I got in 2016, you can't be beaten. The election, people should never be thinking about an election as fraudulent. We need two things. We need walls. And we have to have it. We have to have borders.
You
and
got
we
to
have
say
have
walls
good
differently.
elections.
We don't
Our
need 10
elections
walls.
are bad.
No, these are
And a lot of
walls.
these illegal immigrants coming in.
You know what? I
They're trying
think
to get
Trump
them
is
to
kind of
vote.
rolling
They can't
her
even
on this
speak
debate.
English. They don't even know what country they're in practically.
She's talking
And these
nonsense, and he's
people are
blowing some
trying to
fire.
I don't
get them
know.
to vote.
Laura's
And
been
that's
thinking
why
she's been
allowing
making a
them
better
to come in.
point.
Well, just about the
I did
abortion
watch
thing,
all
he
of
kind of
these
went
pieces
off
of video. I didn't detect the
I think he's
sarcasm.
got
I whisper
pieces.
we didn't
and
quite
they're
make
totally
it.
on his
And we
side.
should
So
just point out here as clarification, and you know this, you and your allies, 60 cases in front of many judges, many of them
No judge
Republican,
looked at it.
and said there
They
was
said
no
we didn't have
widespread fraud.
standing. That's the other thing. They said we didn't have standing.
Cut
A
his ass off.
technicality. Can you imagine a system where a person in an election doesn't have standing? The president of the United States doesn't have standing. That's how we lost. If you look at the facts, and I'd love to have you'll do a special
He's
on it.
absolutely
I'll
right
show
about
you
that. There hasn't
Georgia,
been
and
any
I'll show
judicial
you
decision or
Wisconsin,
court
and I'll show you
decisions on
Pennsylvania,
the
and I'll show
election. I think there's
we
been
have
some
so many
state
facts and
ones.
statistics. But you know what?
That's
Doesn't
actually
matter.
technically not
Because we have to
true.
solve the
A
problem
judge
we have
has
right now.
actually
That's
seen a
old
couple
news.
of cases
The
for
problem that we
Trump's
have right now is we have
cases
a
here, and every single time a judge actually saw it, cases
into
were
decline.
dismissed.
We have a nation that is
Well,
dying.
and he actually
David.
won a
Mr.
couple,
President, thank you.
but then it
Vice
was
President
the
Harris,
if
you
for
heard the
rule.
president
It just
tonight.
wasn't enough
He didn't say
to
that he
sway
lost
it.
by whisker, so he still believes he did not
Exactly.
lose the election.
He couldn't get
That was
injunctions. He
won
couldn't get
by
a stay
President
to get a
Biden,
count on the
and
vote
yourself.
because they said he didn't have
But I do want
standing.
to ask you about
That
something
was
that's
almost in
over
every
the last
state.
couple of days. This was a
And
post
James,
from
California
President
is not a
Trump
state.
about this upcoming election
Yeah.
just weeks away. He said, when I win, those people defeated, and then he lists donors, voters, election officials. He says will be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, which will include
It's in
long-term
this.
prison.
It's a state of emergency.
This right here, what he's saying,
It's just California.
what he's saying right now is a good move. What
Is
Trump
that what you
said,
believe he's trying to do
where he
here?
said, if you
Donald Trump was
engage in
fired by
election
81
interference
million
or
people.
meddling, you'll be
So let's be
prosecuted to the
clear
fullest
about
extent of
that.
the law.
And
He's
clearly
basically
he is having
saying,
a very difficult
make
time
your bed.
processing that.
Like, you can try to cheat,
But we
you
cannot
can hedge your
afford to
bets,
have a
but if
president
I
of the
win, you're going to
United
get got.
States
That
who
was a good move because he's basically
attempts, as
saying,
he did in
make
the
your choice
past,
right
to
now.
upend the will of the voters in a free and fair election. And I'm going to tell you that I have traveled the world as Vice President of the United States.
Just not the
And
border.
world
Just
leaders
not
are
Europe.
laughing at
She's
Donald
never
Trump.
been to Europe.
I have talked with military leaders, some of whom
But
work
other than
with
that,
you,
the rest of the
and
world,
they
she
say
has
you're
been
a
there.
disgrace.
Oh.
And when you then talk in this way in a presidential debate and deny What
I mean, really,
over
so
and
far,
over again
all she's
on
done is
court
hurl
cases you
insults
have
at him. You're a
lost
disgrace. You're
totally
horrible.
because
You're
you
bad.
did, in fact, lose that election. It
Oh.
leads one to believe that perhaps we do not have in the candidate to my right the temperament or
Yes,
the
all this-
ability
Said a
to not
single
be
policy.
confused about fact. That's deeply.
She's just
troubling,
running
and
out the
American
clock.
people
Just running
deserve
out the
better.
clock for 90 minutes trying to get out
I'll
of
give you
there.
1 minute to respond, Mr. President.
Let me just say about world leaders. Viktor Orban, one of the most respected men. They call him a strong man. He's a
Yeah, we've only
tough
got about 30
person.
minutes left of this.
Smart. Prime Minister of Hungary. They said, why is the
I'm good
whole
with that.
world blowing up? 3 years ago, it wasn't. Why is it blowing up? He said, because you need Trump back as president. They were afraid of him. China was afraid, and I don't like to use the word afraid, but I'm just quoting him. China was afraid of him. North Korea was afraid of him. Look
Victor
at what's
Orban's
going on with
doing
North
good
Korea,
stuff
by
in
the
this
way.
country.
He said
He's
Russia
talking about
was
himself
afraid
in
of him.
third person
I
here,
ended
right?
the Nord Stream 2
A
pipeline.
lot of people
And
say
Biden put it back on day
You
one,
can't,
but
you can't
he
argue
ended
with the fact
XL
that
pipeline.
nobody was challenging the United
XL
States at that
pipeline
time. There wasn't
in
an
our
invasion in
country.
Ukraine.
He ended that, but he
you
let
didn't
the
have
Russians build
October
the
7th
pipeline
in the
going
Middle
all over
East.
Europe and heading into Germany, the biggest
It wasn't
pipeline
a
in the world.
BRICS
Look,
organization trying
Viktor
to
Orban
devalue the
said
dollar.
it.
So you got
He
to give
said
the
the
man some
most
credit there.
respected,
But there was people
feared
coming through the
person
woods with
is
tiki
Donald
torches.
Trump.
So you have to,
He
you
had
know,
no problem
there was
Trump
that.
was president.
Look, I
Right.
don't know if you
When
know
this
this, but
weak,
And if I take it out of
very
context, they
man
were very
that
fine
you
people.
saw at a debate just a few months
I don't know
ago,
if you know this or
that
not,
if
but I
he
talk
weren't in
about
that
myself in the
debate, he'd
third
be
sense
running
all the
instead of her.
time.
He got
Me
no
too.
votes. He got
I
14
got busted
million
last
votes.
night
Like
on
you did.
the
You
Fidget
talk about
show
a threat to
talking
democracy.
about myself in
He
the
got
third
14
person.
million votes, and they threw him out of office. And you know what? I'll give you a little secret. He hates her. He can't stand her. But he got 14 million votes. They threw him out.
She knows
He got
people hate her.
0 votes. And when she ran, she was the first
Well, remember,
one
up
to
until
leave
Biden
because
was
she failed.
forcibly
And
removed,
now she's running.
she was the
I
most
don't
heinous
understand it,
vice
but I'm okay
president
with
in
it
history.
because
Nobody
I
liked her.
think
There
we're
was
gonna do
talks
very
about her
well.
behind her back.
Turning now
And
to
then
the
all of a sudden she was
Israel-Hamas
installed.
war and the hostages.
I've
was
actually
Hey,
one
hey,
more
this
prime
is
minister
going to be good.
than
Talking
that.
about Israel and
Vice
Hamas.
President
This guy,
Harris,
she
in
splits the hair
December,
on
you
this.
said, quote, Israel has a right to defend itself, but you added, quote, it matters how, saying international humanitarian law must be respected. Israel must do more to protect innocent civilians. You said that 9 months ago. Now an estimated 40,000 Palestinians are dead. Nearly 100 hostages remain. Just last
Ooh,
week,
how's he
Prime
going to
Minister
swing
Benjamin
this?
Netanyahu
Because
said
the
there's not a
entire
deal in the
Israel
making.
war,
President Biden has
extremely
not been able to
unpopular
break
with a
through the
radical
stalemate.
base,
How would you do it?
and it's all under her
Well,
administration.
let's understand how we got here. On October 7,
Oh,
Hamas, a terrorist organization, slaughtered 1,200 Israelis.
Ooh, she just
Many
killed
of
her
them young
base.
people
I'm
who
just
were simply
imagining,
attending a
people
concert.
rioting outside.
Women were horribly raped.
All the blue hairs
And
are
so
screaming and pulling on their
I
hair
said then,
now.
I say now, Israel has a right to defend itself. We would. And how it does so matters.
This is good.
Because
right
it is
here
also true.
Oh yeah,
far
the
too many
social media is about
Now
to
we
light
split the
up.
hair now.
Palestinians have
We're
been
splitting
killed.
the hair as we speak.
Children, mothers. What we know is that this war must end. It must end immediately. And the way it will end is we need a ceasefire deal and we need the hostages out.
They need to blast the
we will
whole
continue
country.
to work around the clock on
Kind of like
that.
the Abraham Accords.
Work
That'd
around
be
the clock,
interesting.
also understanding that we must chart a course for a two-state solution. And in that solution, there must be security for the Israeli people and Israel, and in equal measure for the Palestinians. But the one thing I will assure you always,
Colleen
I
Noir
will
doesn't think he's
always
doing
give
very
Israel
good.
the ability to defend itself, in particular as it relates to Iran and any threat that Iran and its proxies pose to Israel. But we must have a two-state solution where we can rebuild Gaza, where the Palestinians have security, self-determination, and the dignity they so rightly deserve.
They had
President
that
Trump,
before
how would
October
you
7th.
negotiate
Yeah, I
with
think the
Netanyahu
whole
and
October
also
7th
Hamas in order to
debacle
get the
proves that a
hostages out and prevent the
two-state
killing of
solution
all
does not
innocent
work.
civilians in Gaza?
Let's hear what he's got to say on
president,
this.
it would have never started. If I were president, Russia would have never, ever, I know Putin very well, he would have never, and there was no threat of it either, by the way, for 4 years, have gone into Ukraine and killed millions of people when you add it up, far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went
That's
to Congress to make a
They
very
wouldn't even
important
send
speech.
an
She
aide. They
refused to be
didn't
there because she
send
was at a
Adam
sorority
Schiff to
party
meet
of hers.
Netanyahu.
She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates Israel. If
That was a
she's
good jab.
president, I believe that Israel will not exist within 2 years from now. And I've been pretty good at predictions, and I hope I'm wrong about that one. She hates Israel. At the same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different
or nuclear weapons
spheres of terror. And they are spheres of terror, horrible terror. They had no money. It was a big story, and you know it. You covered it very well, actually. They had no money for terror. They were broke. Now they're a rich nation. And now what they're doing is they're spreading that money around. Look at what's happening with the Houthis and Yemen.
At least it doesn't say terror like George H.W. Bush.
I will get that settled and fast, and I'll get the war with Ukraine and Russia ended. If I'm president-elect, I'll get it done before even becoming president.
Vice President Harris, he says you hate Israel.
That's absolutely not true. I have my entire career and life supported Israel and the Israeli people. He knows that. He's trying to, again, divide and distract from the reality, which is
she
it
gets
is
this
very
really
well
bad quiver in
known
her voice when she
that
gets super
Donald
nervous.
Trump is weak and wrong on national security and
You
foreign
see how they
policy.
did the wide angle of her
Known
side by
that he
side, and then they
admires
cut to the split
dictators,
screen
wants
real
to be a
quick.
dictator on day one. And according to himself, it is well known that he said of Putin that he can do whatever the hell he wants and go into Ukraine. It is well known that he said when Russia went into Ukraine, it was brilliant. It is well known he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un. It's absolutely well known.
I mean, the one he
that
insulted
these
all the time,
dictators
Rocket
and
Man.
autocrats
Called him Little
are
Rocket
rooting
Man and called him
for you
fat.
to be president again because they're
He
so
walked
clear.
across the DMZ
They can
alone.
manipulate
Called
you
Kim Jong-un
with
fat.
flattery and
Like a
fakeness.
savage.
And that is why so many military leaders who you have worked with have told me you are a disgrace. That is why we understand that
insults.
we have to have a president who is not consistently weak and wrong on
Vice
national
President
security,
Harris.
including the importance of upholding and
Look,
respecting.
it's true. It's true. I call her a bitch,
Vice
and she
President
is
Harris, thank you.
total bitch. I can't
She's the
stand
one
her. A
that
bitch.
caused it.
A lot
Let's
of
wink
people
on
say she's
national
the worst
security by
bitch. I would
allowing
never say
every
that.
nation
That's a
last
horrible thing to say.
month,
But a lot of people
year,
say
A lot of people
she's a
do.
total bitch.
different countries sending people into our country.
80 and sometimes 90%.
Putin endorsed her last
She's
week.
such a bitch.
And I
Even
hope
Bill
she
Clinton
wins.
wouldn't
And I
put her
think he
under
meant
his
it.
desk.
Because what he's gotten away with is absolutely incredible. It wouldn't have happened with me.
God damn.
Other countries think that they're weak and incompetent, and they are. They're grossly incompetent. And I just ask one question. Why does Biden go in and kill the Keystone Pipeline and approve the single biggest deal that Russia's ever made, Nord Stream 2, the biggest pipeline anywhere in the world going to Germany and all over Europe?
Look on her
Because
face.
they're weak and
to
they're
him.
ineffective. And Biden, by the way, gets
President,
paid a lot of money.
thank you. We have a lot
Nord
of
Stream
issues to get to.
pipeline.
We'll be right back with much more of this historic ABC News presidential debate from the National
We have much more to get
Constitution
to,
Center
but we'll be
here
right
in
back.
Philadelphia. Back in a moment.
Yeah. Commercial breaks. Got to make that money.
Well, one and probably the only debate she'll do.
Yeah, I agree. I
Oh,
don't think she'll do another one.
100%.
I don't either. No.
She can't do it.
She's doing pretty good, though.
You think?
Laura seems to think so.
I did not think so. I thought he
They were-
should have stuck on the abortion thing a little bit. 'Cause
She told some
was, like,
sob
doing the
stories
bleeding
that I
heart
think women
shit.
were attaching to.
Yes.
She brought her childhood 3 times.
Yeah.
But
They're
not
like-
McDonald's.
Well, I mean,
noticed.
that's her bag of tricks. Is what her childhood and abortion is a hip pocket topic for Democrats.
when she was a black kid in Detroit.
They were. They asked her,
I
what do you
was a
think
poor
about
black
fracking?
child.
How do you feel about? They're like, how do you feel about fracking? She was like, I grew up as a little kid in a family. Like, man,
But she spent most of her childhood in Canada.
yeah, where apparently they have a lot of fracking, and she worked the fields.
Well,
I'm
there
just
is-
surprised that she grew up as a little kid. I'm like, wow, she grew up as a little kid. Wow. It's like,
She was born at a very young age.
Yeah, exactly.
she looked like she was shook a few times in there. I think.
Oh yeah.
Didn't really quite know how to respond,
Especially when Donald Trump shut her down. I'm talking. Excuse me. I'm talking now.
does that sound familiar?
That was gold right there, because I was.
Yeah,
that
where
was
am I
on-
missing that? What is that coming from? I'm talking now.
She
told her
said that.
She said
Well,
that.
I don't know if she told him that, but
No, she told that to Pence in the last debate for 2020.
Oh.
and that's actually on the bingo card for the what Trump might or what Kamala might say.
You know, and I think
we
Pence had a
bingoed
pretty
out.
good-
Whoever selected that, they nailed it. We've run, I think, just about all the way through them.
Yeah, but Trump swiped that right out from under her. That was gold.
I think Pence did a pretty good job when he actually did that debate, because she kept saying, I'm talking. He's like, yeah, but you're not answering any of the questions.
Yeah, and you have a fly on your head. Remember that shit?
Yeah.
Like the fucking fly lands right on his head, stays there for 5-10 minutes.
Man, that was in the news cycle for 10 days.
Well, what you got, range minded? What do you think so far?
Oh, I think this is gold.
Your team Harris, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Good to know.
I did so much for this country.
Yeah. I just want someone to take my guns away.
We go together.
Listen, I think everybody needs to come together.
All together.
It's important.
And together, we will get there.
Nobody needs an AR-15 or assault weapons. It's just not fair.
And if you're not with me, I'm going to come after you and take you down.
Yeah, in the first 100 days, it'll happen.
You got to really pinch your nose, Laura, when you're doing that. You got to, yeah. But on a serious note, how do you guys think she's doing? How do you think this will be received by the public? If you're coming at it from an independent perspective, you have no preconceived notions. Because I think the moderators are running heavy cover for her right now, unlike they did with Biden.
She hasn't really done anything off the wall stupid, saying. I mean, she's been kind of reserved. You tell that they've been doing shit about running the country. They just been practicing this debate and just getting her to say the right things. She's doing okay. I thought the DNC was okay and everything. I mean, they didn't do anything crazy. She looks like a superstar if you let, some of the news agencies, build her up, and she's like the next coming of Christ or something, this new person. But I don't see her beating Trump. No way.
She's definitely going to be the vote blue no matter who crowd is definitely going to win, and you're already starting to see that across social media where they're saying that she's just pommeling her, and that's always going to be the biggest hurdle that conservatives, independents, constitutionalists, however you want to look at it, it's going to have, is the vote blue no matter who. People will literally vote for a water bottle with a D on the side of it. They don't care. And that's very evident with the fact that they removed Biden and put Harris in with nobody electing her or voting for her.
Yeah.
The day before, they were saying how great Biden was, that he was the sharpest tool in the shed. Then the immediately next day, Harris is the best thing for the country. That
Same
word
thing
there.
I
Lay
said,
off that
yeah.
moonshine.
I'm telling you, man, it's some good stuff.
You got to drink more. You're not coherent yet.
Fuck, I thought I was drinking.
But
Ron, it's funny, Ron. You mentioned that they'll vote for a water bottle if it's got a D on it, which is ironic because that's the only D the Blue Hairs will ever get.
Yeah, they might cut their D off. Yeah, be careful.
But I agree, guys. I don't think, and actually, Destiny, he was on with Pierre
Candace?
Oregon, and he said that someone brought up, well, Biden's basically dead. He said, I would vote for an urn before I vote for Trump. And I think that's
terrible.
All right, grab your pronouns. We're back.
Yeah, I think.
Where's the volume at, Doug?
All right, real quick. Yeah, no, I agree with you guys. I don't think she's falling flat enough, and the sycophantic worship that we're going to see from the media.
Oh, yeah.
Just might put her over. Hey, Joe, we got audio?
Now, this is where we do bad lip reading.
A lot of people think I'm the best. I would never say that.
Listen, she put Tampon Tim in there as her vice president. I don't call him
They
that.
shot
Other
me
people
in the
do.
ear.
Boys, it's crazy.
And she isn't even black. She's Indian.
True.
Yeah, on her forehead last night. I saw it.
Joe?
Ooh.
Hey, Joe, we got audio?
He's left us.
Joe, did you go get
I would never say that. A
leftovers?
lot of people say she's a bitch. She's a total.
Hey, Kingdom, throw something at the
horrible
cottage.
thing. Why would you say that about something? She's a very nice. No.
Hold on. I got something.
Hold on.
Joe.
How'd you say
Yeah, Joe?
Not whispering to Joe.
I get it. That is a war that's dying to be
You
settled.
hear that?
I will get it
Thanks,
settled
Kingdom.
before I even become president. If I win,
Good job,
when I'm
Ed.
president-elect, and what I'll do is I'll speak to one, I'll speak to the other, I'll get them together. That war would have never happened. And in fact, when I saw Putin after I left, unfortunately left because our country has gone to hell. But after I left, when I saw him building up soldiers, he did it after I left. I said, oh, he must be negotiating. It must be a good, strong point of negotiation. Well, it wasn't, because Biden had no idea how to talk to him. He had no idea how to stop it. And now you have millions of people dead, and it's only getting worse, and it could lead to World War III. Don't kid yourself, David. We're playing with World War III, and we have a president that we don't even know if he's. Where is our president? We don't even know if he's a president.
And just to clarify
they
here,
threw him out of a campaign like a dog. We don't even know. Is he our president? But we have a president,
Mr. President,
that doesn't know he's alive.
your time is up.
Like he's the
Just to
president.
clarify the question, do you believe it's in the U.S. best interest for Ukraine to win this war? Yes or no?
I think it's the U.S. best interest to get this war finished and just get it done.
All right.
Negotiate a deal, because we have to stop all of these human lives.
Glass the entire border.
I want to take this to Vice President Harris. I want to get your
Alligators.
thoughts on
He said it
support
right.
for Ukraine in
that
this
was
moment,
true,
but also
he said,
as
want
Commander-in-Chief,
Ukraine to win.
if elected,
I
how
want
would you
you to
deal with Vladimir
not.
Putin, and would it be any
No,
different
I
from
give
what
him
we're seeing
props
from
for what he
President
said. He's not going to either side. He just let's get it
it's
done. Let's
important
do a
to
ceasefire.
remind
Be
former
done with
president,
this.
You're not running against Joe Biden. You're running against me.
Oh, hey, she
I
told
believe the reason
you.
that Donald Trump says that this war would be over within 24 hours is because he would just give it up. And that's not who we are as Americans. Let's understand what happened here. I actually met with Zelensky a few days before Russia invaded, tried through force to change territorial boundaries, to defy one of the most important international rules and norms, which is the importance of sovereignty and territorial integrity.
Just for the
And
record,
I met with President Zelensky. I shared with him American intelligence about how he could defend himself. Days later, I went to NATO's eastern flank, to Poland and Romania. And through the work that I and others did, we brought 50 countries together to support Ukraine in its righteous defense. And because of our support, because of the air defense, the ammunition, the artillery, the javelins, the Abrams tanks that we have provided,
Can't tell, is that an
Ukraine
American
she
stands
remembered
as an
all of that.
independent and free country. If Donald Trump were president, Putin would be sitting in Kyiv right now. And understand what that would mean, because Putin's agenda is not just about Ukraine. Understand why the European allies and our NATO allies are so thankful that you are no longer president, and that we
Because he
understand
makes
the
them pay their
importance
fair
of the
share.
greatest military alliance
exactly.
the world has ever known, which is
Does that
NATO.
bitch have any idea how many B-52 bombers we have? We could have blasted that
The
entire
ability
region.
of Zelensky and the
He
Ukrainians
kind
to
of
fight
punked
for their
them,
independence.
just kind of like he did
Otherwise,
Putin when he
Putin would
grabbed
be
Putin and
sitting
pulled
in
him over like a little
Kyiv
man.
with his eyes on the rest of
Yeah.
Europe, starting with Poland.
You ain't
and
gonna
wanting
win an
to tell the
argument with a black woman,
800,000
dude.
Polish
Come on, dog.
Americans right here
That's
in
why they're
Pennsylvania,
happy
how
that
quickly
Trump's
you
not at
would
these
give
NATO
up
meetings.
for the sake of favor and what you think is a friendship with what is known to be a dictator who would eat you for lunch.
Vice President Harris, thank
She
you.
forgot to put her
Delicious.
hand up. I
Ukraine
like,
tonight.
hold up.
Afghanistan
Now,
came up in the
first
last
of all,
hour. I wanted her to respond to something you said earlier, and please, I'll give you a minute here.
Putin would be sitting in Moscow, and he wouldn't have lost 300,000 men and women, but he would have been sitting in Moscow. Quiet, please. He would have been sitting in Moscow.
Wow.
But eventually,
does
he's
not
got a
know what to
thing
do
that
with that.
other people don't have. He's got nuclear
That's
weapons.
supposed to
They
be
don't ever
her
talk
line.
about that. He's got nuclear weapons. Nobody ever thinks
quiet,
about
please.
that. And eventually,
Dude, he is holding
they
his
use him,
tongue
maybe
when
he
she's
hasn't been
speaking. I
that
love it.
threatening.
Well,
He does have that.
it's how
Something we don't even like to
dismissively he
talk
says
about.
it that
Nobody
just
likes
really
to talk
does
about
it.
it. But just so you understand,
He knows it
they
just
sent
tears
her
her
to
to pieces. It
negotiate
just-
peace before this war started.
It's like that scene
3
out of
days
Tombstone.
later,
Oh, I
he
forgot
went
you were
in
here.
and
You
he
may go
started
now.
the war because everything they said was
He doesn't
weak
even
and
hear her
stupid.
Huckleberry.
Yeah.
They said the wrong
Adults
things.
are
That war should
speaking.
have never
Excuse me.
started. She was the emissary. They sent her in to negotiate with Zelensky and Putin, and she did. and the war started 3 days later. And that's the kind of talent we have with her. She's
That is
worse than Biden. In my opinion, I think he's the worst president in the history of our
Because
country.
they were arguing
She
who hates
goes
her
down
most, and
as the
that's what
worst
happened.
vice president in the history of our country. But let me tell you something. She is a horrible negotiator. They sent her in to negotiate. As soon as they left, Putin did the invasion.
President Trump, thank you. You bring up something. You said she went to negotiate with Vladimir Putin. Vice President Harris, have you ever met Vladimir Putin? Can you clarify?
I've
tonight?
never been to your.
Yet again, I said it at the beginning of this debate. You're going to hear a bunch of lies coming from this fellow.
Oh, bunch of
She
lies.
says she's been all over the world.
When I went to
Lies,
meet with
lies,
President
lies.
Zelensky, I've now met with him over 5 times. The reality is, it has
In
been
Washington.
about standing with
$170
America
trillion
always
later.
So does that mean you've met with him 6 times?
upholding international
I
rules
mean,
and
billions
norms.
of
That
dollars.
means they've had,
You
had
had to
somebody else
pay him
deliver this.
something for
They
it.
delivered all of them.
Understanding
There's
that
been a
the
lot more than that.
alliances we have around the world are dependent
5
on
times,
our ability to
$170
look out
billion.
for our friends and not favor our enemies because you adore strong men instead of caring about democracy. And that is very much what is at stake here. The President of the United States is Commander-in-Chief.
Ukraine has
and the American people
postponed
have a
indefinitely
right
their
to rely
democracy.
on a president who understands
They
the
elect Joe
significance
Biden,
of
but she jumps
America's
in
role
instead,
and
talking about democracy.
in terms of ensuring that there is stability and ensuring we
If she wearing a
stand
come
up
and take
for
it
our
flag on her
principles
Look at
and
all
not
look at all
sell
this
them
stability
for the,
she's
for the
ensuring. Don't you
benefit
guys
of
feel
personal
stable?
flattery.
All right,
Talk
y'all better
about
clean it up.
Ukraine and
Edgy's
Vladimir
with us.
Putin. I do want to talk about Afghanistan. This
Understand.
came up in the
Edgy's
first
okay.
hour
No
of
cuss
this debate.
words.
I
You
wanna
take
move on
away
to
all my
Afghanistan.
fun, Joe.
Said
What's up
Trump
with
did
that?
the most amazing
like my
thing
job.
I've ever seen. He got these countries, the 28 countries at the time, to pay up. He said, I've never seen, he's the head of NATO. He said, I've never seen. For years, we were paying almost all of NATO. We were being ripped
60%.
off by European
Fact
nations,
check
both
true.
on trade and on NATO. I got them to pay up by saying one of the statements you made
Look at her.
before.
She's like, I've got
if
no
you
problem
don't
sending
pay,
American
we're
tax
not gonna
dollars over
protect
there,
you.
you
Otherwise, we
idiot.
would have never gotten it. He said it was one of the most incredible
she knows
jobs
we can just
that he's
print
ever
more.
seen done.
Thank you. I want to turn
She was
to
literally
issues that came
supported
up in
by
the first
Dick
hour of the
Cheney,
debate,
someone that
and
the
we
left
witnessed
has
a
called a
poignant
war
moment today on
criminal for
Capitol
the
Hill,
last
honoring the
20 years.
soldiers who died in the chaotic withdrawal
Did
from
she stand in front of a
Afghanistan.
mirror
I do
and
wanna
work
ask
on
about
how to
Hang
your
on,
look
y'all hold
like
up for
Hillary Clinton?
do you
Afghanistan.
believe you bear any responsibility in the way that withdrawal played out?
Well, I will tell you, I agreed with President Biden's decision to pull out of Afghanistan.
I
4
agreed with
presidents
killing 13
said they
people. Who
would, and
cares?
Joe Biden
Edgy.
did.
I want to hear it.
And as a result, America's taxpayers are not paying the $300 million a day we were paying for that endless war. And as of today, there is not one member of the United States military who is in active duty in a combat zone in any war zone around the world, the first time this century. But let's understand how we got to where we are. Donald Trump, when he was president, negotiated one of the weakest deals you can imagine. He calls himself a deal maker. Even his national security advisor said it was a weak, terrible deal. And here's how it went down. He bypassed the Afghan government. He negotiated
Lord,
directly with a terrorist organization called the Taliban. The negotiation involved the Taliban getting 5,000 Taliban terrorists released. And get this, and the president at the time invited the Taliban to Camp David, a place of storied significance for us as Americans, a place where we honor the importance of American
Funny
diplomacy,
because I remember
where we
all
invite
leaving
and
the Taliban
receive
$90
respected
billion
world
military
leaders.
hardware and saying
And
that they wouldn't
this
ensure women's rights.
former president, as president, invited them to Camp David because he does not again appreciate the role and responsibility of the President of the United States to be commander-in-chief with a level of respect. And this gets back to the point of how he has consistently disparaged and demeaned members of our military, fallen soldiers, and the work that we must do to uphold the strength and the respect of the United States of America around the world.
Vice President Harris, thank you. President Trump, your response
Sounds
to her
good.
saying that you began the negotiations with the Taliban.
So
Yeah,
if
sounds
you take
good.
a look
You
at
don't
that
know what's
period of time,
happened.
the Taliban was killing our soldiers, a lot of them, with snipers. And I got involved with the Taliban because the Taliban was doing the killing. That's the fighting force within Afghanistan. They don't bother doing that because, they deal with the wrong people all the time. But I got involved. And Abdul is the head of the Taliban. He is still the head of the Taliban. And I told Abdul, don't do it anymore. You do it anymore, you're going to have problems.
Do it, Abdul.
And he said, why do you send me a picture of my house? I said, you're going to have to figure that out, Abdul. And for 18 months, we had nobody killed. We did have an
That
agreement
was true. He
negotiated
actually
by
sent
Mike
Abdul a
Pompeo.
picture of the
It was a
house.
very good agreement.
Like, I got
The
my finger on the button.
It was good. We were getting out. We would have been out faster than them, but we wouldn't have lost the soldiers. We wouldn't have left many Americans behind, and we wouldn't have left $85 billion worth of brand new, beautiful military equipment behind. And just to finish, they blew it. The agreement said you have to do this, and they didn't do it. The agreement was terminated by us because they didn't do what they were supposed to do.
I want to move on.
And these people did the worst withdrawal.
The
and
moderator
in my
just felt
opinion,
badly.
the
I
most
want to move on.
embarrassing moment in the history of our country. And by the way, that's why Russia
Cut to
attacked
commercial.
Ukraine,
He's killing her.
because they
Cut
saw
to
how
commercial or
incompetent
something.
she
Man, these narrators need to take a page out of my book.
I want to move on now to
Call
racial
911.
politics in this country.
Somebody
Mr.
needs an
President, you
ambulance.
recently said of Vice President Harris, quote, I didn't know she was black until a number of years ago.
Oh, here we
when she
go.
happened to turn
I don't
black,
think she knew
and now she
either.
wants to be known as black. I want to ask a bigger picture question here tonight. Why do you believe it's appropriate to weigh in on the racial identity of your opponent?
I don't, and I don't care. I don't care what she is. I don't care.
Just pick
You
one and
make a big deal out of something. I couldn't care less. Whatever she wants to be is okay with me.
But those were your
Amen.
words, so I'm
I don't
asking.
know. I don't know. I mean, all I can say is I read where she was not black, that she put out, and I'll say
She puts
that.
out.
And
Hear me?
then I read that she was black, and that's okay. Either one was okay with me. That's up to her. That's up to her.
Vice President Harris, your thoughts on this?
I think it's,
I'm
I mean,
answering-
honestly, I think it's
But
a
Ian,
tragedy that we have someone who wants to be president who has consistently, over the course of his
He
career,
already was president.
attempted to use race to divide the American people.
I love how all the
Obama.
questions
I do
are
believe that the vast
targeted
majority
towards
of us
him. There's
know that
nothing
we have so
about
much
Oh,
more in
yeah.
common than
things
what
that
separates
she's
us, and we
done,
don't
things that
want
she's said.
this kind of approach that
Nothing
is just
about her
constantly
policy.
trying to divide us, and especially by
And
race.
this is
And let's
this
remember
question is just a
how
softball.
Donald Trump started.
Oh,
He
yeah.
was
He's a racist.
a
Get
This is
the
why
tiki
she
torches
declined to
out.
do it on
He
Fox.
owned buildings, and he was investigated because he refused to rent property to black families.
Oh my
Let's
God, here
remember,
we go.
this is the same individual who took out a full-page
That's
ad in the New York
absolute bullshit.
Times calling
Yeah.
for the
It's
execution
absolutely true, though.
of 5 young
Yeah.
black and
He wouldn't
Latino
rent to black
boys
people?
who were innocent. The
That is
Central
correct.
Park
In New York
Five
City, he would not rent to black people because they had a
calling for
huge
their
propensity to
execution.
wreck
This is the same
properties. And he didn't want to
individual
rent to them.
who spread birther
Oh,
lies about
well.
the first black
Well.
president of the United States. And I think the
I mean,
American
when you rent to
people
a white person and they do
want
5%
better
damage to your
than that.
property over a year, and
better than
a
this.
black person does over
want
30%,
someone who
why would you rent
understands
to
as
them?
I do, I travel our
Exactly.
country. We see in each other a friend. We see in each other a neighbor. We don't want
No, she
a
doesn't.
leader
She's
who
made
is
hateful
constantly
comments towards
trying
half
to
of
have
America.
Americans point their fingers at each other.
I'm still gonna have
I meet
facts
with
that
people
because
all
I
the
don't
time
think that
who
would
tell
fly
me,
with the Civil Rights
can
Act.
we please just
I
have
think maybe
discourse
he
about how we're going
did
to
something
invest in
along
the
those lines, but I'm
aspirations
sure
and
he
the
didn't
ambitions and the dreams of the American people?
You're rubber
Knowing
banding,
that
Chris.
regardless of people's color or the language
He
their
has been all
grandmother
night.
speaks, we all have the
Oh,
same
It's
dreams
that
and
North Idaho
aspirations and
dial-up.
want a president who
I
invests in
agree.
those, not in hate and division.
Vice President Harris, thank you. Lindsay?
President Trump, this is now your third time.
This is the most divisive presidency in the history of our country. There's never
He's
been
right.
anything like it. They're destroying our country, and they come up with things like what she just said. Going back many, many years, when a lot of people, including Mayor Bloomberg, agreed with me on the Central Park Five, they admitted, they said, they pled guilty. And I said, well, if they pled guilty, they badly hurt a person, killed a person ultimately. And if they pled guilty, then they pled, we're not guilty. But this is a person that has to stretch back years, 40, 50 years ago, because there's nothing now. I built one of the greatest economies in the history of the world, and I'm going to build it again. It's going to be bigger, better, and stronger.
Oh, he's
But they're
building back
destroying
better.
our
Building
economy.
back
They have
better.
no
huge.
idea what a good economy
It's
is.
going to be huge.
Their oil
Did I miss
policies,
it?
every
Kamala
single
say whether she was
policy.
Indian or
And
black?
remember this.
She never
She
said,
never
did she?
said.
She
Nope.
is Biden. You know,
No,
she's
he's
trying to get away from
racist.
Biden.
That's
I
the
don't know
problem.
the gentleman. She
Nope,
says,
you're
she is
bad. You're a
Biden.
bad
The
man.
worst
You're a bigot.
inflation we've ever had. A horrible economy because inflation has made it so bad, and she can't get away with that.
Thank you. Your time is up.
I want to respond to that, though. I want to just respond briefly.
Oh, briefly. Go
Clearly, I am not Joe Biden, and I am certainly not Donald Trump.
I didn't hear
And
him
what
say
I
anything
do
about Joe Biden.
want is a new generation of
part of
leadership
his
for our
segment.
country. One who believes in what is possible, one who brings a sense of optimism about what
Why
we
didn't
can
she do it the last 4
instead
years?
of always disparaging the American people. I
Isn't
believe
she almost
in what we
60?
can do to
She's
strengthen our
50-something,
small
right?
businesses, which is why I have a plan. Let's
find
talk
out.
about our plans and let's compare the plans. I have a plan
59.
to give startup businesses $50,000 tax
Yeah,
deduction.
she's almost
To
60.
pursue
New
their
generation. Fuck you,
ambitions, their
bitch.
innovation, their ideas, their hard work.
What startup
I have
business
a
is not in a
plan,
loss for the first 2 years?
$6,000 for young
Yeah.
families for the first
They
year
let
of
you
your
do it for
child's life
5.
to help you in that most critical stage of your child's development. I have a plan that is about allowing people to be able
What's
to
the plan?
pursue
Yeah,
what
Can you
is
enumerate a
living in
single
terms of the
policy?
American dream
Yeah, but
by
look at Trump's
offering
website. That's her plan.
help
She'll
with
just
down
copy
payment
it.
of $25,000 down payment assistance for first-time home buyers. That's the kind of conversation I believe, David, that
How
people
you
really
kill the
want
housing
tonight.
market.
No, no,
Did
not
they
first
not learn
time.
from the
First
first housing crash?
generation.
Recently about belittling and name calling. Let's turn the page
Vice
and
President
move
Harris,
forward.
thank you. Let's turn to policy.
President
Let's turn
Trump,
back
we
to
have
policy.
to move on. President Trump.
Let's turn to policy, please.
He needs
To
to calm
defund the
down.
police. She has a plan to confiscate everybody's gun.
President Trump,
She
we
has
do
a
have to
plan
move
to
on to
not
other
allow
issues.
fracking in Pennsylvania or anywhere else.
Okay, thank
That's
you,
what her
President.
plan is.
Even
what Kim
radical
just
far
recently-
left
just need
Mark
to
Cuban
respond.
said that
The
her
former
economic
president has
policy
said something
would
twice that I need
decimate
to
the
respond
stock
to.
I'm sorry,
market.
we're gonna move on.
Oh,
President
and arguing.
What he has
President
said
Trump, this
multiple
is
times.
now your third time running for president. You have long vowed to repeal and replace the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. You have failed to accomplish that. You now say
Yeah,
you're
I
going to
miss
keep
my
Obamacare,
insurance
quote,
that I
unless we
used
can
to
do
have.
something much better. Last month, you said, quote,
Remember when
we're
Obama
working
said,
on it.
"No,
So
If you like your
tonight,
insurance, you can keep
9
it.
years
So
like
y'all
your
need to
after
stop
doctor,
you
lying.
started running, do you have a plan?
You can keep
And
it.
can you tell us what it is?
Obamacare
I'm going to
was
tell that to the
lousy
hospital with the
healthcare.
bill they just
Always
sent me
was.
today.
It's not very good today. And what I said, that if we come up with something, and we are working
I
on
love her
things,
little
we're going to do
child's
it and we're going to
podium.
replace it. But remember this, I inherited
know why
Obamacare
it's so
because
funny.
Democrats wouldn't change it. They wouldn't vote for it. They were unanimous. They wouldn't vote to change it. If they would have done that, we would have had a much better plan than Obamacare. But the Democrats came up, they wouldn't vote for it. I had a choice to make when I was president. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be? Never going to be great. Or do I let it rot? And I felt I had an obligation, even though politically it would have been good to just let it rot and let it go away. I decided, and I told my people, the top people, and they're very good people. I have a lot of good people in this administration. We read about the bad ones. We had some real bad ones too, and so do they. They have really bad ones. The difference is they don't get rid of them. But let me just explain. I had a choice to make. Do I save it and make it as good as it can be, or do I let it rot? And I saved it. I did the right thing. But it's still never going to be great, and it's too expensive for people. And what we will do is we're looking at different plans. If we can come up with a plan that's going to cost our people, our population, less money and be better health care than Obamacare, then I would absolutely do it. But until then, I'd run it as good as it can be run.
So just a yes or no, you still do not
That's
have
a great
plan.
answer.
I have concepts of a plan. I'm not president right now. But if we come up with something, I would only change it if we come up with something that's better and less expensive. And there are concepts and options we have to do that. And you'll be hearing about it in the not too distant future.
Vice President Harris, in 2017, you supported Bernie Sanders' proposal to do away with private insurance and create a government-run healthcare system. 2 years later, you proposed a plan that included a private insurance option. What is your plan today?
Well, first of all, I absolutely support, and over the last 4 years as vice president, private healthcare options. But what we need to do is maintain and grow the Affordable Care Act. But I'll get to that, Lindsay. I just need to respond to a previous point that the former president has made. I've made very clear my position on fracking, and then this business about taking everyone's guns away.
Flip-flop.
Tim Walz and I are both gun owners. We're not taking anybody's guns away. So stop with the continuous lying about this stuff.
He actually has said
Well, that's
That
funny.
is the Affordable Care Act. Understand,
Wow,
but
dude.
just look at the history to know where people stand. When Donald
They're
I
Trump
don't
gonna
even own it, Eric. She wants to take mine away.
times he tried to get rid of
She
the
just
Affordable
said it
Care
last
Act.
week.
60 times.
She has a
I was a
plan.
senator at the time.
in the first 100 days, I
will
thought it
never
was.
forget the early morning hours
Yeah,
when
that's our
it
first
was
100-day
up for a
plan.
vote in the United
Yeah,
States
it's on the
Senate.
White
And
House
the late, great
Twitter page,
John
X
McCain,
page.
Yeah,
who
and
you
also
have disparaged
changing the
as
definition of
being
sex for the
you don't like
1964
him,
Civil
you
Rights
said at the time
Act,
because he
making
got caught. He was an
anybody a
American
woman
hero.
and
The
anybody
late,
getting
great John
protections
McCain, I
that the
will
women are
never
afforded
forget
in
that
the
night.
Civil Rights
The
Act.
Walked
internet's
onto the
gonna
Senate
point all
floor
this
and
shit out
said,
tomorrow. Watch.
no, you don't. No, you don't. No, you don't get rid of the Affordable Care Act. You have no plan. And what the Affordable Care Act has done is eliminate the ability of insurance
Didn't he
companies
say he
to
wasn't
deny
going to do
people with
anything with it
pre-existing
to manage the
conditions.
best he
I
could
don't have
until
to tell
something
people
better come
watching
along?
tonight,
Somewhat
remember what that was
Obamacare, yeah.
like? Remember when an insurance
It's
company could
bankrupting
deny
people. It's awful.
if a child had asthma, if someone was a breast cancer
Oh
survivor,
gosh.
if a grandparent had
Cancer and
diabetes?
asthma, diabetes.
And thankfully,
Oh.
We
as
already
I've been
had
vice
that. It was
president,
called
and we over the
Medicaid.
last 4 years
Yeah.
have strengthened the
Oh my
Affordable Care
gosh.
Act.
She makes a lot of
We
good
have
points, you
allowed for
know.
the first
If my
time
aunt had a
Medicare to
dick, she'd be my
negotiate drug
uncle. I mean,
prices
it's like,
on
oh
behalf
wow,
of
okay.
you, the American people. Donald Trump said he
Hard
was
to
going to
argue
allow
logic.
Medicare to negotiate prices.
My God, I'm my own
President
grandpa.
never did. We did. And now we have capped the cost of insulin at $35 a month. Since I've been vice
It's
president, we have
democracy.
capped the cost of prescription medication for seniors at $2,000 a year. And when I am president,
That is
we will
false.
do that for all people, understanding
Fake
the
news.
value I bring to this is that access to health care should be a right and not just a privilege of those who can afford it. And
Nobody
the
has a
plan
right to
doctors
your
and
labor.
slaves
How
now.
long
to
are they going to let her
strengthen the
go
Affordable
on?
Care
I
Act,
thought it was 1
not
minute.
get rid of it.
It's been like 10.
Fastest
President
prologue
Harris.
No, I
in
think
terms of
we're
where
on
Donald
what
Trump
CNN.
stands on that.
I want to
Who's
move to an
broadcasting?
issue that's
ABC.
important for a lot
Made a
of
mistake. Number one, John McCain fought Obamacare for 10 years. But it wasn't only him. It were all of the Democrats that kept it going. And you know what? We can do much better than Obamacare, much less money. But she won't improve private insurance for people, private medical insurance. That's another thing she doesn't want to give.
President
People
Trump.
are paying privately for insurance that have worked hard and made money, and they want to have private. She wants everybody to be on government insurance where you wait 6 months for an operation that you need immediately.
President Trump, thank you. We have another issue
Because
that we'd
she's
like
a
to get to
communist.
that's
They let
important for
him
a
go
number of
about a
Americans,
third
in
as long
particular
as he
younger
did.
voters, and that's climate change. President Trump, with regard to the environment, you say that we have to have clean air and clean water. Vice President Harris, you call climate change an existential threat. The question to you both tonight is, what would you do to fight climate change? And Vice President Harris, we'll start with you. 1 minute for you each.
Well, the former president had said that climate change is a hoax. And what we know is that it is very real. You ask anyone who lives in a state who has experienced these extreme weather occurrences, who now is either being denied home insurance or it's being
Like the
jacked up.
ocean
You
decreasing in
ask anybody
temperature.
who has
Hurricanes.
been the victim of what
Some
that
climate
means in
change.
terms of
The fact that
losing their
Plymouth
home,
Rock is in the
having
exact
nowhere
same
to
spot
go.
they found it.
We know that we can actually
How
deal
much
with
has your
this issue. The young
insurance gone
people of
up
America care
during their
deeply
3
about
years
this
of
issue.
presidency?
And I am proud that as vice
Plymouth Rock
president
has
over the
been moved
last 4
3
years,
times.
we have invested $1 trillion in a clean energy economy, while we have also increased domestic gas production to historic levels. We have created over 800,000 new manufacturing jobs while I have been vice president. We have invested in clean energy to the point that we are opening up factories around the world. Donald Trump said he was going to create manufacturing jobs. He lost manufacturing jobs. And
Around
I'm
the
also
world,
proud
not in
to have
the
the
US.
endorsement of the United Auto
That's
Workers
exactly
of
what she
Sean
said. We're
Fain.
opening up
You
That
also
that right
know
there,
that
that was
part of
that was 1
building a
minute.
clean energy
He's
economy
now at 1
includes
minute 5
investing
seconds.
in American-made products,
And
American
manufacturing went through
automobiles.
the
It
roof while he was
includes
president.
growing what we can do around American manufacturing and opening up auto plants, not closing them like happened under Donald Trump.
Vice President Harris, thank you.
That
Okay,
didn't
she got
happen
1
under Donald
minute
Trump.
and
Let me just
23
tell you, they lost
seconds.
10,000 manufacturing jobs this last month. It's going,
He's
they're
right.
all leaving. They're building big auto plants in Mexico, in many cases owned by China. They're building these massive plants, and they think they're going to sell their cars into the United States because of these people. What they have given to China is unbelievable. But we're not going to let that. We'll put tariffs on those cars so they can't come into our country, because they will kill the United Auto Workers and any auto worker, whether it's in Detroit or South Carolina or any other place. What they've done to business and manufacturing in this country is horrible. We have nothing because they refuse. You know, Biden doesn't go after people because supposedly China paid him millions of dollars. He's afraid to do it. Between him and his son, they get all this money from Ukraine. They get all this money from all of these different countries. And then you wonder, why is
she's
he
not
so
shaking her
loyal
head
to
now.
this one, that one, Ukraine, China? Why is he? Why did he get $3.5 million
Because she
from
doesn't
the
know.
mayor of Moscow's wife?
Yeah.
Why did he get?
She has
why did
no idea
pay
what he's talking about.
$3.5 million. This is a crooked administration, and they're selling our country down the tubes.
President Trump, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll be right back with closing statements from both of our candidates. The historic night as
You don't have to answer that question.
He just ravaged her on that last one.
They gave him 15 less seconds than they gave to her when they said 1 minute each.
Maybe that's okay though. Maybe it keeps him from talking too much. Make her do all the talking.
Look, we try to run some time limits in just the night court, and we can't keep anybody at 2 minutes or a minute and a half. So cut him some slack there, Bruce Wayne.
All I'm saying is be
it's 3
fair.
against 1 tonight.
Yep, absolutely. No, they were running hard cover for her.
She knew. They paid big bucks for those questions.
She had the questions weeks in advance, and that's all she's been doing for the last couple of weeks is studying those questions.
Absolutely.
And
I think Trump's done very well, though. I think people like him less when he's in his bully mode, and he's been direct and matter of the fact, but I hadn't seen a whole lot of bullying out of him. So I think he's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I think he's kept his calm.
I agree. I think he's grabbed the hook a couple of times on some of the things that they've thrown out there. But I think it's worked out in his favor a little bit. At one point, you could tell he was getting a little bit agitated, and he was you could tell by the speed of his voice and the cadence of his talking that he was starting to get agitated, and then he throttled back. But she definitely got knocked off Cantor a couple of times, and this last one we just did, you could see on her face she just had no retort to that question.
Yeah, and he's hushed her a couple times, which
literally,
like, excuse me, I'm talking. Does that sound familiar?
It's gangsters, man.
And then
awesome.
yeah,
So
just
OG.
like quiet.
OG for sure.
Thank you. It's like, oh, okay. He definitely looks like he's in charge, and all she's doing is criticizing him, knowing that he's in the lead, and she needs to throw a Hail Mary and win here. I just don't see it happening. What do you think?
I don't see her being real sellable to the American people. And I'm not saying you Democrats aren't on board. I think they are. But I think those middle people, the folks that you got to garner on your side in order to win, pass your blue and the red colors, I think she's going to have trouble doing it. She just doesn't come across as being, in my opinion, super intelligent, and she has flip-flopped so many times and pretends like it's never happened. And I think American people are smarter than that.
I agree.
She is a coward. Like, she refused to do a debate with a moderate news outlet, ABC. Aside from MSNBC, ABC is one of the most favorable in reporting for Biden. And so it's like someone else said, it's 3-on-1. And I don't think she flopped quite as bad as we would like. I think it's about 50-50. I don't know that anyone really came out on top on this because they're throwing softballs.
Yeah, it's funny, like when you hear it, and she says, well, you know, Trump does this and Trump does that, and his rallies, this is what you see and whatever. But the one thing he never talks about is the American people. And when you think about the presidential debates, it's usually in front of the American people, and the American people can ask the president, like undecided voters. But her and Biden both do not want any of the American people to witness this or a live audience. That's what I think is pretty interesting.
You know, let me jump in here real quick. I know this is going to sound kind of odd. Joe, I 100% disagree with what you said. I don't think a majority of the American people are smart enough anymore because almost all of them go off of headlines and feelings, and nobody takes the time to look at the facts anymore. And if they did, I don't think we'd be having these debates where Kamala Harris is up there running her mouth and people were actually believing what she's saying.
Well, all right, Big Ron, I'm going to push back.
Oh,
here's how I'm pushing back.
Ding, ding,
ding,
ding.
I don't think it's headlines anymore. I think people are starting to feel it. You feel it when you go to the grocery store. You feel it when you go to the pump. You feel it at work. There was less jobs created in this last quarter or last month than anticipated. That stuff starts to add up. So I think it's no longer headlines. Something I've said before is that when enough people feel it, it's okay if someone else is catching hell from the government. We may bark a little bit, but we don't get real concerned about that. But when it starts affecting your life and your grocery cart and your paycheck, I think people start looking a little different.
Do you think we're past the government harder daddy stage?
I don't know. November's it. If we're not, we've got another 4 years, and I'm sure we'll hit that limit in the next 4 years under a Democratic administration.
I don't know, they'll be able to vote our way out of it if we have another 4 years of this. But I got something funny. New York Times has got a bar graph, minutes of speaking time and lengths of attack.
Live from the National Constitution Center in Philadelphia.
Harris has spoken, or she's attacked Trump for 17 and a half minutes. Trump has attacked Harris for 11 minutes and 41 seconds. It was funny that they're tracking that, but yeah, she's been full.
See,
two very different visions.
Don't ever talk about B. Wayne.
And the other that is focused on the past and an attempt to take us backward.
And we have to
but
be
we're not going
unburdened.
back. And I do believe that the American people know we all have so much more in common.
Need to be
than what separates
unburdened
us.
by what
And we
has
can
been.
chart
We're
a
not
new
going
way
back.
forward. And a vision of that
Right there,
is
number two,
having
we won't
a
go back.
plan, understanding the
We won't go back
aspirations,
to
the
Joe Biden. I
dreams,
mean,
the hopes,
we're
the
going to Harris
ambition
now.
of the American people, which is why I intend to create an opportunity economy, investing in small businesses, in new families, in what we can do around protecting seniors, what we can
What the
do
hell is
that
an
about
opportunity
giving
economy?
hardworking folks a break and bringing down the cost of living.
Yeah, it means she picks
I
winners and
believe
losers.
in what we can do together.
If the economy
that is
sucks,
about
you had an
sustaining
opportunity,
America's standing in
but
the
it
world
sucks.
and ensuring that we have the respect
To
that
vote
we
for
so
Trump.
rightly deserve, including respecting our military
You have
and
the
ensuring we
opportunity
have the
to
most lethal
budget out
fighting force
ramen.
in the world. I will be a
Yeah.
president that will protect our fundamental rights and freedoms, including the right of a woman to make decisions about her own body
And
and
back
not
to
have her
abortion.
government tell her what to do.
So
I'll tell you,
It's a
I
major
started my
issue.
career as a
argument.
prosecutor. I was a DA, I was an attorney general, a United States senator, and now vice president.
Not
I've only had
exactly
one
the spot
client,
you started your
the
career,
people.
I hear.
And I'll tell you, as a prosecutor, I
According to
never
Trump, she
ask
puts out.
a victim or a witness,
Now,
are
he
you a
said it, didn't he?
Am
Republican
Willie
or
Yeah, I
Democrat?
did.
The only thing I ever
She's
ask
black,
them,
she's
are
Indian.
you
I just know
okay?
she puts out.
Exactly.
And that's the kind of president
She's
we
white.
need right
Come
now.
on.
Someone who cares about you and is not putting themselves first. I intend to be a president for all Americans and focus on what we can do over the next 10 and 20 years to build back up our country by
She thinks she
investing
can be a
right now
dictator for
in
20
you, the American people.
Vice
GFO,
President
Kamala,
Harris, thank you.
GFO.
President Trump.
Thank you.
So she
GFY.
just started by saying she's going to do this, she's going to do that, she's going to do all these wonderful things. Why hasn't she done it? She's been there for 3.5 years. They've
Yep.
had three
Well,
and a half years to fix the border.
almost 4
They've
years
had
now.
3.5 years to create jobs and all the things we talked about. Why hasn't she done it? She should leave right now, go down to that beautiful White House, go to the Capitol, get everyone together and do the things you want to do, but you haven't done it and you won't do it because you believe in things that the American people don't believe in. You believe in things like we're not going to frack. We're not going to take fossil fuel. We're not going to do things that are going to make this country strong, whether
Defund
you
the
like it or
police.
not. Germany tried that, and within 1 year, they were back to building normal energy plants. We're not ready for it. We can't sacrifice our country for the sake of bad vision. But I just ask one simple question. Why didn't she do it? We're a failing nation. We're a nation that's in serious decline. We're being laughed at all over the world. All over the world, they're laughed. I know the leaders very well. They're coming to see me. They call me. We're laughed at all over the world. They don't understand what happened to us as a nation. We're not a leader. We don't have any idea what's going on. We have wars going on in the Middle East. We have wars going on with Russia and Ukraine. We're going to end up in a third world war, and it'll be a war like no other because of nuclear weapons, the power of weaponry. I rebuilt our entire military. She gave a lot of it away
It'll be
to
mostly
the
peaceful.
Taliban. She gave it to Afghanistan. What these people have done to our country, and maybe toughest of all, is allowing millions of people to come into our country. Many of them are criminals, and they're destroying our country. The worst president, the worst vice president in the history of our country.
Amen.
President Trump, thank you. And that is our
A lot
ABC
of
News
people say the
presidential
worst
debate
person
from here
ever.
in Philadelphia at the National Constitution Center. I'm Lindsay Davis.
And I'm David Muir. Thank you for watching here in the U.S. and all over the world, and from all of us here at ABC News. Good night.
Yeah, that's real great. So,
Thank you very much.
I think
So
Trump.
good.
I think Trump performed as well as I expected him, or as well as I think he could. Be quite honest with you, he didn't go on the attack. He was very straightforward. He threw out some facts. She was the same way. Emotional word salad. I think it'll play well to women, but I think aside from that, most people look at like she doesn't know what she's talking about. That's my assessment of the debate.
Yeah, I mean, she spent almost 50% more time attacking him. It was an uphill fight for him with the moderators, with the questions. I think it probably, my original assessment is it's about 50-50. I don't know that either one came out on top. And I think the media is going to spin this. So I hope the people watching this were able to look at it critically, because I don't think there was a clear winner in this debate, but I think Trump did a lot better than I thought he would. He didn't fall for a lot of the traps that they laid, and he focused on policy, which is what he should have done. I just don't know that the uphill battle that he was able to overcome that hill they put in front of him.
I think they're gonna.
Do you carry pom poms with your Trump sweatshirt? You do like cheers as well.
Well, now you're coming in all fuzzy, Joe.
Yeah,
I think they're gonna add woman beater to all of his indictments or whatever, because he just kicked her ass.
Yeah, pretty much.
See, I came in at the end, and that may have been when Bruce was talking about him getting a little upset, but he sounded a little bit more on the defensive than I would have liked to have heard him. And I have a feeling that it was attack after attack after attack, and it just gets tiring after a while. But I don't want to hear conservatives defending themselves against the moronic left. I just don't want to hear it. Not even in the presidential debate. I think that makes us look bad.
Well, I definitely want to hear more about policy from her. I know that's a joke, but I want to hear more about her policies. And like I said earlier, everything with her has been headlines and social media, and everything with him has been policy and what he's going to change. And I think that's the problem with the Vote Blue No Matter Who crew, is they don't honestly care about her policies. In fact, there was an interview that was done with Quentin Tarantino and cannot remember, and Bill Barr. I think it was Bill Barr. Bill Maher, thank you. Where Quentin Tarantino came right out and said policies don't matter. It's only about winning. That's the only thing that matters, is win. And I think that's the mindset of the other side right now. And when you have, as much as I hate to say it, a cult-like theory like that, or a mindset like that, no matter what policy you put out, it's not going to matter. This debate, the other side went in knowing who they were going to vote for. I don't think anybody that's in the base group has changed their mind. The people that they need to look at were the swing voters and the independents that are undecided. And I think this can go either way. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I think it's still a campaign for both of them. What do you think about it, Tactical? How much were you able to catch?
I was about the end of it. A bar at a little.
Come closer to the mic.
It sounds like you're 2 doors down trying to talk to the mic.
Are you still at work?
Can you hear me?
Come closer.
Can you hear me now?
Oh,
yeah, at a bar.
Yeah, I'm at a bar. I had a little emergency.
Emergency at the bar. Woo!
I've been to a few of those.
Yeah,
I didn't catch the end of it. I thought it was interesting. when Trump kind of snuck in that two-way punch, and she couldn't rebut until afterwards, and she revealed that she's a gun owner. But like, it doesn't matter because she has trained armed security. So her owning a gun is kind of pointless because she has a Secret Service following her around.
Yeah.
Everybody doesn't have the Secret Service following them around. And as Carl pointed out in a space yesterday, just because you own a gun doesn't mean you're necessarily a member of the 2A community in that same fashion. She's clearly not.
Is that FT?
Also, yeah, that is. Yeah. He's running incognito because he's running from the X law.
Oh, we're rebranding?
Well, FT's got a price on his head, so he's incognito.
Yeah, I have to split the account.
I'm calling the police right now. Give me a second.
Oh,
it's bad.
It's probably reward if you know the whereabouts of FT French.
Yeah, I mean, I've had over 1,500 followers at this point. Each time I have to rebuild from 500, I lose my account. 500, then I lose my account. So I was just like, you know what?
What the?
Let me make a poster. Yeah, Elon touts this as a free speech platform in terms of text.
Put on the election.
Free speech.
We can vent later.
Hey, I'll tell you what.
I just wanted to say one last thing.
Go ahead.
The interesting thing is, from what I saw, the Constitution was only mentioned when they were referencing the name of the debate center, and that's a damn shame.
Yeah, I'm not upset if our leaders jump back to the Constitution, but hey, I want to talk about something Kingdom and I have been doing over the last few weeks. There's been a lot going on at Houston North Pole. For those of you who don't know, Kingdom or Ron, Roby, and Laura, they run probably one of the largest Christmas light installation businesses in the country. I think Houston is the 5th largest city, and here in just a couple of weeks, we're going to start blanketing the city of Houston and its suburbs with Christmas lights. We've been doing quite a bit of stuff.
Dude, it's not even September yet, man. What are you talking about?
Well, you got a video to show what we've been doing in August? Because you're right, Des. A lot of this was done in August.
I know.
Did you make a video?
Christmas lights before Thanksgiving is blasphemy.
I know.
Whoever said that? Who said that?
I can't believe Joe would say that.
We've been working. We've been working on training some crews and getting started. There was a new warehouse that was built. Some other things. Of course, if you sell Christmas lights, you need to have Christmas lights on all your buildings. But I've been putting together training videos. Here's one, and one of the products that we've got. By the way, if there's anybody out there, this is not a bad little gig. Kingdom can get you set up pretty well with it if you want to install Christmas lights in your neighborhood or pick up some few extra dollars before you go to Christmas. You can do real well with this. He's got good pricing, but and we provide training videos like this when I'm putting some of these together. But here's one on a magnet clip.
Ooh, magnet clips.
Magnet clip.
Oh, look at you.
Oh, that's cute.
Video de instalar. Oh, yeah. Look at you with the Spanish. Hell fucking yeah.
Yeah, he's learning Spanish, I guess.
AI.
Oh, AI. He's so smart.
Does basically live in northern Mexico.
Yes, he waking the way.
Oh, look at that slow motion there, showing how that magnet clip goes on that C9.
Slow motion with it.
Click, click.
Yeah.
I see band-aids. Is it that dangerous?
Well,
he banged his hand with a hammer.
Yeah.
He can make it dangerous.
But there's what those magnet clips looks like. That's the new Kingdom warehouse. Each one of those lights are held on by magnet cords.
Que pasa way?
Yeah, que ando way.
ChristmasContractor.com. Anybody's interested in that, or shoot me a DM. I'll get you a link you can click.
Yeah.
And if you want to DIY it, I can teach you how.
Exactly. Yeah. We've even got videos that'll show you how to use each one of the components that we sell.
Dude, I'm with B. Wayne. It's blasphemy.
What's blasphemy?
It's like
anyone who installs Christmas lights before Thanksgiving. Come on.
I'm telling you right now.
Halloween decorations at the before the 4th of July.
Well, now you say that. You say that we can put your Christmas lights up in RGB, and you can have a pretty damn scary Halloween, and we'll change the color. You can change the color the day after Halloween. There, Mr. B. Wayne.
And B. Wayne, you can also put that RGB up and have it for 4th of July all summer
red,
long.
white, and blue. Do we want to go back and look at the warehouse buildings? That red, white, and blue.
RGB is red, green, blue.
And WW
They're also,
with warm white.
they're also primary colors there.
I thought it was
engineer.
Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, we got the rainbow flag for Joe.
Hey, Bruce, I
My
want
tree
you to
behind me is
know
not lit, so I can't show you.
Hobby Lobby had their Christmas decorations up like 4 weeks ago. So,
Yeah,
you know,
bitch,
they're
I think
very
we're
high.
it's not quite landing.
What's that?
I feel like you're trying to make a point by saying that Hobby Lobby is right about stuff, but not
No,
quite.
they're crazy about their stupid Christmas stuff. It always goes up in like
I tell you what you guys may not understand is that the Christmas light season, when you do as many as Kingdom does, it starts actually very early. It started in June or actually May of putting this together. There's the slab going down for the warehouse. Look at that.
Yeah.
It's a lot to put into it. We take all year long. This is actually the only thing that we do all year. We only do Christmas. So, yes, it's blasphemy for Thanksgiving. I will admit my Christmas tree is up in the living room right now.
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
But if I don't do it now, I'll never get to do it because I'm about to be on a 20-hour schedule.
We'll start next week putting up commercial like Chick-fil-A's. We've got most of the Chick-fil-A's in the greater Houston area. We do red and white on those, so they don't mind having them up longer. Homeowner associations will have you put the lights up, but you don't turn them on. You come back later and put up the greenery. But there's a whole lot of work. There's a couple of cities that we do their downtown area that we'll kick off. So a lot of it has to do, Bruce Wayne, that you get it done early, just so you have the ability and the time to get it in. Because you can't just throw up 1,000 homes on Christmas lights in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that workforce.
You were able to get that concrete poured with that Trump 2024 sign up front?
Sure as hell did.
Dude.
They were
Brother,
taking
you in
pictures in
Texas,
front of
they
it
love
too.
Trump.
Oh, yeah.
The
100%.
Mexicans,
the Mexicans
Hispanic
are like, oh, I like
culture
Trump, my friend.
loves Trump.
Yeah, I love Trump, my friend. Get rid of these illegals. I'm like, hell yeah, dog.
That's real.
I swear, that's exactly how they say it. You're like,
Well, folks, I think that's about the end of the broadcast. Which one of my co-hosts, who's going to take the after party? I've already had requests for an after party space.
I'll take it tonight.
Tell them we're not doing an after party just because they asked.
yeah.
Y'all don't
Here's
want to do
here's a
it. Y'all
picture
want
of Joe Lanu.
Okay, well.
Look at all damn boxes.
Yeah, we're trying to shut the door.
Wait, no, that can't be Joe. That's not Joe. Go back to that picture.
Nah, it's
Were those all
That's Joe
glitzers?
and
There
Ron.
were, there,
Actually,
there was
those
no
were
apron.
socket wire. Oh, apron.
There
Where's
was no
your
apron on Joe. It cannot be Joe. He would mess
Yeah.
up his clothes.
Yeah.
Oh, dear.
Oh, that's terrible.
Everyone in Texas is over 7 feet.
I'm going to get you an apron, Joe, I promise. We'll have a nice little Christmas lights on it or something.
It has to be manly.
Has to be rainbow colored or you won't wear it.
Oh, I'm on it. I got
Well,
my vinyl cutter. I'm going
does-
to cut it right now.
He does do the French
There's a cool
maid thing
Joe.
every
Farmer.
once
That's
in a
Farmer
while.
Joe. You haven't seen Farmer Joe.
Ooh.
Farmer Joe.
Right now, he is just grimacing.
He's like, this
He's
is
like,
enough. No,
"Motherfuckers."
let's go to the after party. Stop showing pictures. Jesus.
From now on, though, when Lawyer Joe's in there, I'm going to differentiate. It'll be Lawyer Joe and Farmer Joe.
Farmer Joe, yeah. Driving the tractor
You
around.
know he's plotting to saran wrap all your toilets right now.
I mean, any second he's going to be in here with the knife and stab you in the back.
If it weren't the Kamala economy, he might be able to afford to drive up here.
Oh, fun fact, Joe is about 50 feet from us right now.
Yeah.
He means to Idaho.
Yeah.
Oh, Idaho.
Yeah.
I think we're safe, Wayne. We're
I'm
safe.
about
Y'all
24
safe.
hours away from him.
Y'all safe. We're not. He'll smother us in our sleep.
So yeah, we're kind of ramping up for a season. I think that's what he was talking about. And if you need some Christmas lights and things like that, when it gets closer, whenever you get ready, we get the best prices in the country. We can ship it out to you, whatever you need. Stuff like
Real
that.
quick question. Do you sell individual bulbs? Because I think I might be able to afford 3.
Yeah, of course. We'll send you 3 bulbs.
Look, all I want is one of those glitzers. I need a glitzer.
Yeah. We'll
Was that the
definitely.
one behind you there, Ron?
Mine means
Yeah.
a
So
spritzer.
these,
Spritzers
whatever
behind
these
us.
are, these little patriotic red, white, and blue. Yeah.
You
Get
have
your
I
to,
tried
you have
to
to
win
adjust your camera.
I
You
tried
tried
to win
to
one
win-
of those on the live you guys did a while ago.
You know what? I was.
Did you want a
can send you
patriotic one?
I
Because
can
I'll just
send you
send
one.
you one.
Yeah.
Of course,
Yeah,
I wanna
you know
do
what?
that.
As long as you have a video of it that you're going to promote it, I'll send you one.
Well, look, look at there's so much space behind me that I need lit up when the lights are off in here.
It's true.
Yeah.
See,
Little
look,
red,
I
white,
put-
and
Hey,
blue.
look, all jokes
So
aside, if
Steve
you'll
needs
go
a
to
picture
the
out of
christmascontractor.com,
Spritzer.
you can get an individual set if you just want to decorate your house. I mean,
Yeah, I
these
wanna
are
get some
commercial
stuff for
grade
sure.
C9 equipment. There's videos that go along with every component that we sell that will show you how to use it. It's not that difficult. You can save yourself quite a bit of money. And the good thing about it is you buy it this year, you can put it up. These things have a 5-year, the bulbs have a 5-year warranty on them. You could go 6-7 years depending on how you use them. But the wiring harness will always fit your house because we'll show you how to cut and fit it. So it's custom made for your home.
And if you
I
measure, we
would be
can do it for you
interested
too.
in send me that link and let's post that in the after party because I would be interested in getting
Joe
some.
needs a raise.
I mean,
Yeah, I
guys,
know. Yeah, believe me. The dude don't.
No,
work-
I mean, but you'll find things like you won't find better wreaths. It's better what you're going to go down in Walmart get. Everything that we've got is commercial grade. It's
Yeah,
the
it's
kind
not-
of stuff you'll
it's
see on
not Hobby
commercial
Lobby.
properties. It's
It's
not
not
Hobby
military
Lobby.
grade.
No.
And I'll tell you that Kingdom
you can
is
try.
straight gay for some Garland. Now you start talking Garland. Look at him. Look at him. He's excited. Look at him. Man loves Garland. Gets a weird look on
does
his
The guy's
love
got no.
Garland.
The guy's
His
got
eyes
no
light up.
We
spirit.
gotta
They
do-
twinkle like
Man,
silver.
He's like, we got to start fluffing
Garland.
Garland. It's like, man, we got a lot to do. I got water lines to run,
you guys-
decks to build, putting in electricity.
Garland
He's
to
like,
fluff.
well, we got to fluff Garland. We got to get to that point.
Yeah.
It makes me
So,
think of Judy
I have a
Garland.
question.
hold up.
If
hold
we
up,
get
hold
a
up.
Nigerian
Real quick.
prince,
Real quick, Fidgy. Joe just said he gets that Kingdom gets excited about fluffing Merrick Garland.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Didn't you
super
know that's my
excited.
nickname, Garland?
Oh dear.
Oh,
if
we
a
just went in a direction.
Nigerian prince contacts you, Kingdom, and they say we have $3 million worth of Garland, are you going to recognize that as a scam? Or are you going to be like, nah, it's $3 million
No, I
Garland?
think
We
he'll be
don't
at
get our
he'll be at the
Garland
bank
from
mortgaging the
Nigeria.
property.
We
He'd
get
be
it
like,
from
send that shit
China.
right now.
Sound like some bullshit to me, man. Yeah.
All right,
No, but
folks,
yeah.
a good show that was
Yeah.
interesting. You want to sign off on something there, Kingdom?
No. I was just going to say that we've been busy and been working our asses off trying to get ready. And I know it's not for everybody, but it's just what we do for a living. And so if you can't support us, just think some good thoughts for us as we're working our ass off 20 hours a day. And, hopefully we'll have a good season and we'll have more time to bring cool shows like this throughout the year if we have a successful Christmas season.
It really is awesome, Kingdom.
Yeah.
Send me the link. I'll promote it. I want to support you this year. And
Cool.
let's fluff some Garland.
Fuck
Hey,
Joe, dude.
every piece of Garland that comes from Kingdom Christmas lights will be pre-fluffed.
No, dude, the box
By-
comes with
by
a little
Kingdom's
Chinese
hand
guy.
himself.
The Chinese guy inside the box fluffs them. I buy them pre-fluffed now, thanks to Joe. He just
Yeah, fluffers in
the
China.
Chinese guy jumps out and runs away, and when you come out, it's already
Wouldn't they be
fluffed, ready to go.
fruffers?
Yeah, exactly.
They would
Yeah.
be fruffers.
Yes, yeah.
I'm dying.
I have big
Oh,
problem with
A
fun.
big problem with this Garland.
Yeah.
Oh, round eye.
Too big.
Garland, no fluff. No fluff like Garland, round eye.
Yeah, big Ron, B. Wayne, James, good to see you. Fidgety Tactical FT, man. It's good to see you guys again. I hadn't seen you guys in a while.
Likewise.
Yeah, we've missed you, Kingdom.
And Steve. Brains
Well,
mom,
it's
dude.
almost like we do
Did I
6 shows a
forget?
week there, Kingdom. I mean,
Yeah, no. I know.
I mean, if you knew what we were doing every day, you wouldn't understand.
Yeah. Stop focusing on real life. Get
Yeah,
back
yeah,
into
folks.
the
For
world.
these night courts, I'm sliding in. I couldn't make it last night. Just couldn't pull it off in time. So there may be some more of that. Maybe some co-hosts stepping up.
A lot more of that.
Guys,
Hey, I hosted a 6-hour party yesterday, bro. It was good.
You were
Look, man,
vicious, by the
night
way.
court's only 2 hours. We just got to stay on topic and keep running it.
James pulled off a hardcore after party last night.
He was like Hitler. He's like, "You're not talking to me."
Yeah,
But
no, I was
Yeah,
in
he
there.
went,
I was
he
in there
went
for a little
Hitler
bit.
on some people.
I got a lot of DMs last night about the harsh treatment by the co-hosts. I was like, hey, they want a tight show. I don't know what to tell you.
If we're
No
not
mic
har-
for you.
if we're not harsh, we don't like you. But just remember, guys, be understanding. If Joe's not pulling off a new show, he's fluffing some Garland. So
Yeah.
Rainbow
So
apron.
he's got an
No,
excuse.
Farmer Joe.
Joe does not fluff Garland. That is a.
That
In
is
fact, I'll be
myth.
honest
Hey,
with you.
so
Nobody
fake
else here
news.
can fluff Garland. There's Garland to be fluffed. Kingdom's on it.
Yeah. I'll send you the picture of Joe fluffing it.
I thought it came pre-fluffed.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, guys. That's the end of this
been
live
stored
broadcast.
last year.
Pidgey's going to kick up the after party space. We'll have an after party for anybody that wants to join in and keep talking about fluffing garland or whatever else we decide to talk about.
Farmer Joe, whatever it is.
All right, guys.
Gonna be good
Lord
after party.
mercy.
Everyone should join.
Everybody's drunk, so it should be awesome.
Yeah.
I'm going to start it up at 11:15.
All right, guys, we're
We'll
out.
see y'all there.
Hello.
No.
And did you ever get any money from Maya Lansky?
I never got money from any of those fellas.
None of those
None of those fellas. None of these that I've been reading about, or none that I knew. They never gave me anything.
None of the machetes?
No. I don't even speak to it. I mean, I met that Charlie once or twice. I don't even talk to him.
You don't like
No.
Night Court with Joe Lanou live on X.
Also known as Duck Corella.
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made attempt to
You got
criminate.
any business?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of attempt to criminate.
You have any profession?
I refuse to answer on the grounds of made
You
attempt
have
to
any
criminate.
occupation?
I refuse.